G'day, mate. It's Colin here. See if I can do this. No. I'm on the piss today, mate. And when I'm on the piss, let's see if I can keep these both going at the same. Sometimes that means you got a bit of bubbly, right? Piss is an Australian term that we have for, you know, like beer, things like that, mate. We call it the piss. So today, Colin's on the piss. So just give me a minute. I'm sorry I'm late, mate. Let me just hold this in my hand. It's great to be with you today, mate. We have this thing in Australia, we have a saying, which is, you Americans would never understand this, mate. We say, you can't organise a piss-up in a brewery, mate. Now, piss-up, if we say we're on the piss like this, mate, that means alcohol, right? So, if you can't organise, when we say piss-up, mate, that means it's something where a bunch of people are drinking all at the same time. Whew. And if we say we're organising a piss-up, mate, that means there's a bunch of people who want to drink together, and that's what we're doing right now, mate. We've got a piss-up here. We're trying to organise this, but we have a put-down that we give, which is you can't organise a piss-up in a brewery. And if you can't organise a piss-up in a brewery, mate, that just means that, like, you're so ignorant that you can't get it together. So I'm sorry, mate. I had to organise me piss-up here, but it was a bit late, and I apologise for that. Is that England or Australia, mate? I'm very insulted that somebody would say they don't know whether this is Australian or not, mate. I'm proud to be from down under. And sometimes I just got to be on the piss in order to get the show together for you. I've got to try to connect the dots and make these things work. You know, you're out in the bush, you're sweating. It's very hot right now. Makes me long to be in Australia. We're in the middle of our winter here right now, mate. It's winter in Australia, but summer here is brutal, mate. So we got to have a bit of a piss, you know. We got to organise a piss up in a brewery. See if that works right, mate. It's not a British accent, says Cyrus Cage SCWS, mate. You got to get out more. You got to go back to Australia. You learn this is a perfect Queensland accent, mate. In all seriousness, thank you guys for being here today. I'm David Wilcock. I like to have fun with my Colin McGeezer character. There's a bit of British in there too, but yeah, it's predominantly Queensland, Australia. If you really knew that. Well, see, I traveled in Australia. I did a whole tour there. I went there for a long time. Plus, one of my insiders was from Queensland. Yeah, I do like to blend in a little bit of Britishisms as well. It's just very funny. I have a woman I talk to named the Baroness, and she says that she literally cries with laughter when I do the Colin McGeezer character, so I decided I'd open up with Colin being on a bit of a piss, mate. Sometimes you got to do that, you know what I'm saying? You got to be on the piss if you want to get a good show, because you just might have a bit more liquidity and a bit more fluidity in the way that you're speaking, mate. Man, this is delicious. Anyway, I did not expect to be doing a show today, but yet here we are. And I got some cool new blue lights. I've added to my set a bit here. There's all kinds of good things going on, and we keep it real for you, so boom, we go to that one. Got lots of camera angles to play with. I can switch it around. I can be over here, I can be over there, I can go anywhere I want. But yeah, we added some new blue lights today. I got that going, and sorry about the delay. I just kind of ran out of time making slides. I didn't get to do all the newest Alliance Twitter posts yet, ex-Twitter, but that's okay, because just since we did the show on Sunday, in 24 hours, there have been some very significant announcements. Now, we were talking about the idea that the posts said war is coming. That was on the TG platform. What does that really mean? Well, we had a very provocative incident occur in which a missile hit the area of Crimea, which is run by Russia, and it was a type of missile that could only have been done by the usual suspects right here on terra firma, not in Australia, but where I actually live. So this is a very, very provocative event, and if you remember, I had a dream that showed me the nuclear standoff that's taking place, and that it was going to lead up to some type of missiles being exchanged, or at least I saw 2 missiles in the dream. Well, that has now happened. So that's the first really big signpost. I also had a dream that was very provocative right around this time where Godzilla was attacked. I watched Godzilla -1. I didn't know what to expect with this movie. Turns out it was really, really amazing. The new Godzilla Japanese movie. I was really blown away. I was moved to tears at least 2 times, maybe 3 times during the film. It's a World War II drama. It's very intense. Godzilla is pure evil. And with the reptilian horror that they managed to achieve here, it actually is a scary movie. I actually did get scared. But there's an incredible heroic ending where Godzilla is defeated by a fighter jet. I won't give it all away. But it's a combination of a fighter jet and some other really cool things that they do that they plan out during the movie. And he blows up. He blows to smithereens. And so on Sunday, the day that I did my last show, I had this incredible dream where Godzilla was completely defeated by various types of attacks that were military attacks. So that was one of the dreams I've had, and I've had others like that. And the comms that we just read on Sunday were very provocative. They were loaded with code names. So yesterday morning, I had a dream in which I was in a war scenario. I was in a trench. Can everybody hear me okay? Let's just make sure. Violet Sonora says, sending blessings for the highest codes of light. We've had some wonderful donations already. Carrie Robbins, I've dreamt of tsunamis recently in Japan and somewhere with Arabian-style buildings. I don't know if that means anything. Oh, we've already got 2,500 people. Thank you guys for showing up. Yeah, so there's definitely lots of stuff going on. And there's, you know, it's a big deal. You know, obviously Godzilla is going to be defeated in the movie. I don't think I spoiled anything for you. I mean, come on, that's what movies are about. You know, there's a problem and it has to work out. That's what movies are for. You already know that going in. The Tao of Pooh just donated. He says, thank you, David. Thank you. So yeah, I had this dream on yesterday morning where I was in some kind of World War I type of trench warfare scenario. Here's INF James donated. He says, hi from Melbourne. We're inside a walking dream matrix and beings from outside the matrix are trying to communicate. But the messages don't easily reach us because the veil is so thick, so they embed in channeled material. And then Tarotina gave me again 5,000 ARS, love and light. She told me before that's about $4. Thank you, Tarotina. So yeah, we're in a very interesting situation here, folks. I had some very provocative visionary dreams, and in one of them, the one I had yesterday morning, I was in a trench, and it was like World War I trench warfare, and I was calling out these numbers. I specifically remember the number 34, so we're going to go over that one again. And as I called out these numbers, the war was ending. Obviously, one of the biggest pieces of news that has just really become a game changer is Julian Assange. He's being freed, and that is one of the things that we were just told by the posts. There's also other indications of things happening within 48 hours. So this week could be very provocative. We don't know yet what Julian is going to say. His freedom might pave the way for leaking some things. We're going to go through some of those slides. Yes, we will go through that again, even though Red Disco Dancer says, oh, please not post 34 again. Yeah, we're going to do that because these are very evidentiary things that talk about what's going on now. You should be happy I'm doing the show at all. Normally, I would just be out there probably pulling weeds right now. I have a huge amount of land. Merkaba Light says, he just donated, says, very recently I saw a deep blue orb spin so fast it looked like a portal. And I also had a halo of apparitions appear all around my head many times. Yeah, I mean, the big point is that all of these events are leading up to arrests. And then those arrests in turn are going to lead to a consciousness shift where people realize that we've been living in the illusion. Elohim says, be like Batman. That was another donation. Gina CSB, I was attacked by a group of horned monsters with fishtails in my dream. They told me they'll drown me. I woke up and 10 minutes later the water heater exploded with water pouring through the wall. Well, yeah, that would be an example of a demonic-inspired attack. Demons actually can do that type of thing. They can interfere with metal and electronics. George Wood just donated. David, can you show us the Stavati jet again and tell us how your operation is going? Here's one of our models. This is the SM-39. This is actually a spaceship. It'll go into space. There's no other jet that does that. It's fully hermetically sealed, and it's going to be Mach 4, the fastest jet ever made. I 3D print these on my printer. We are now expecting to close actually tomorrow. So I'm on the edge of my seat. The latest would probably be Thursday. Again, there's just a few final things we have to do regarding title and a few other things. We're getting all that stuff done. It's very, very exciting. Hi from New Zealand. Your Kiwi accent the other day was pretty good, but just a little less elongated on the vowels, LOL. Foreigners always say we clip our words and we probably talk too fast. Yeah, I mean, I went to New Zealand too. I did a conference, a 5-city tour. I did Auckland, Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, and Perth. And what I discovered was that in each city, people had a different type of Australian accent. And then, of course, there's another type of Australian accent. It's a Queensland accent, which sounds similar to some types of Cockney British. Because, again, Australians came from Great Britain. So Queensland is similar to Cockney. And I do like to blend them a little bit. It's not absolutely precise. It's just more about what makes me laugh the most. And I'm just interested in, you know, being as funny as possible. I mean, that's the goal here. So anyway, it's very provocative. The messages that we've gotten, I wish I'd had a little more time to put all these slides together for you. But I'm going to go through some very cool things anyway. And we're going to get to the point. The point is there's a lot of dots being connected. And I encourage you to go to the posts where they're featured on X, Twitter, and read them for yourself, because they're saying some very amazing and provocative things. If there's still, you know, opportunity, then on Sunday I'll go through all these posts, because it does take a while. Non-military just donated again. Thank you. Fabio Zatz just donated $100 in Rs, whatever that is, from Brazil. Thank you, David, following you from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Don't miss any of your lives. We just got lurked. I recently had a dream, he donated, that a black orb visited me and told me the name was Orpheus. I had a feeling of ecstasy shortly before I woke up. I've never had a dream quite like this. Well, yeah, these are ascension dreams that you guys are reporting to me. The one with the demon blowing up the hot water filter, hot water tank, you know. There are demonic attacks. I mean, they will attack machines. The two episodes ago, I had this panel right up here on the wall fall, and it hit the thing. And then the next thing you know, we've got this horrible problem where my audio isn't on, and I had no idea, but the audio interface that I used had fallen on the ground. I had to pick it up, turn it on in the middle of the show. And Jasmine says, I live in Queensland. Yeah, so I have a lot of fun with this, and I like to do accents. It's one of the things that makes me laugh, it makes you guys laugh. And again, we're here to do a great show today, and I have got a lot of amazing content to go through. Because what I've been doing here on the planet is all coming to fruition. My mission is reaching its conclusion. I mean, it's very clear that there's some very big stuff that's getting ready to happen. There may very well be some huge information disclosed now that Assange is free. They basically let him go. They said that the time he's already served is sufficient. I think he's been in prison for 5 years. And he's going back to Australia, mate. So this is all stuff that's happening now. And we also have heard that there's going to be retribution for this attack on Crimea. Now, does that mean a war attack? Does that mean missiles? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the last posts I was sharing with you were very intense, and they were dropping a lot of these code names. We were reading those posts from the original posts that were, you know, put out there on 4chan. Taffy Royal just donated. Thanks for doing this on a day I can catch the live. Thank you. Here's another dream. Willow Soul says, I dreamed I was a white angel in a restaurant being attacked. I opened my wings to cover family for protection. I have a hard time thinking I'm an angel, so maybe I was a customer, LOL. And then we also got a donation from Janet Levite. Thanks for the weekday live, David. A lot is going on. Looking forward to hearing you chat about it. So regarding this dream about being an angel, we all have multidimensional souls. That's one of the things that the Law of One talks about. Now we also have Elohim. Everyone should prepare themselves psychologically and emotionally. Melody Hart just donated. And we have Exigency Bits donated $1 Canadian, celebrating their first super. So thank all of you for what you're doing for us, helping us. This is really great. I hope you like the enhanced blue behind me. We have 4 more lights involved now to make that happen. So it's cool. I'm really excited. In fact, it would be rare for me to ever do a show during the week. Non-military said Legend of Mind Time. This is it, man. It's the comms are not a joke, and I think we're really close to something. And so I do want to go through that with you. But again, the real point here is, like you guys are sending me these ascension dreams. Oh, here's another one. Friday tie day. I dreamed this morning I was cleaning a really dirty window, but woke up when it was still soapy. You guys have much more interesting dreams. Well, no, that dream matters too. That the dirty window and cleaning the window, that's about the soul, and it's about your perception. Everything in the dream is you. So that has to do with your perceptions being, cleansed. You're cleaning the window. You're seeing things more clearly. The soap is still on there, but that's a very positive, encouraging dream. Eternal Beat 1111 just donated, and D-Man 8479 just donated. Is your jet made for war? Oh, no. All we're going to do is take a tour around. We're not going to... Yeah, these are fighter jets, as I've said. And the point is, we're using the money that this is going to raise to create anti-gravity, hover cars. Tarotina says, oh my goodness, I love that Klein blue light. Yeah, so I talked about this in other shows. We shouldn't have shame around the fact that we need boundaries and we need to defend those boundaries. And yes, just like what they teach you in martial arts, you have to become skilled in the weapons of the day. Well, the weapons of today include fighter jets, and we have a really bad situation where the ones that we're using now are extremely, extremely overpriced, I believe, and not very effective. It turns out the F-35 doesn't work if it gets hit by lightning, and we need to have things that will enforce peace. That's what somebody just said, Nate Torrey, weapons of peace, right. If you don't have any weapons, if this country doesn't have any weapons, and we're all ashamed of it, we don't like weapons, well, guess what? Somebody else will have them, they'll invade, and now you're going to be under the boot heel. So we really don't want that. And therefore, this is a heroic mission that I'm doing because we're dramatically reducing the cost. For example, the new B-21, they say costs $704 million. This costs $85 million, and it has capabilities that no other jets have. So you could build, almost, 9 more? You could build 9 for the price of 1, something like that. It's pretty incredible. But again, the proceeds are going to be going towards hover cars, free energy. We have garbage processing technology. We are promised that we will have med beds in the future. That technology apparently is going to be leaked to us from Area 51 type of people. And people don't really understand. I had a dream about Roswell this morning, and it was telling me, we need to talk about this. The fact that Roswell was real, that these ships did crash here, and that since 1947, the military-industrial complex has been reverse engineering this technology. And according to Pete Peterson, my top insider, there's 65 different bases around the galaxy where there's Americans who are stationed. Americans all over the galaxy, man, it's horrible. It's horrible. We got more donations. Janet Lee Warziniak and Helder Marquise says, thank you, I wish you the best. So yeah, we definitely came into a national security state where this technology exists and it's all around us, but we're just only looking at them as UFOs. We don't realize, as Shadow of Ezra has said, both on Twitter and on TG, these are, in fact, our things. There's many, many craft flying in our skies that people think are UFOs because you have been kept in the dark. They've had, 70 years or more since Roswell now, 1947 to 2024. That's a long time. So it's like 80 years now, something like that. So anyway, it's almost 80 years. What we're seeing is that these posts that have been coming through, these are coming from an entity that is fully integrated with that UFO secrecy. Space Force very likely is dealing with back-engineered technology. We had Salvatore Pais, who came forward with the Navy anti-gravity patents. I've talked about this before. And his whole shtick was, yeah, you know what? This is going to lead to a working anti-gravity machine. And the technology that he described is basically identical to what Chris Beskar invented by working in classified programs in the 1990s and coming out with a working prototype. It involves shooting electricity, as I've said before, down these needles, and the electrical charge rolls into a ball. It creates a plasma ball, and they call this cold plasma, and then there's other things inside the cavity of the ship that direct the plasma. So if you were going to build this into a jet, it would be like a peanut. You have 2 hulls. You have an inner hull and an outer hull. The inner hull there's a cavity between the inner and the outer hull, which is where the cold plasma is stored. So in the inner hull, you have all these needles. The electricity rolls off the needles, creates these little orbs that are called EVOs, or exotic vacuum objects. And the exotic vacuum objects, I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who invented this. It'll come to me in a second. But he was the father of zero-point energy. He's well known for that. But the exotic vacuum objects are, in fact, levitation capable. That's what we're seeing with when you shine these objects through an emitter into something solid, it will actually levitate. And we have some new film of that very phenomenon happening in our movie Levitation when it comes out. There's been a lot of delays. Our producer has been horribly, horribly attacked. It probably is the result of, to some degree or another, DS interference. So I'm still waiting on updates about when our film is going to come out, but we've had some real significant problems with the delays and that kind of thing. But it will happen. We just have to exercise a little more patience. It is frustrating, but that's what we're dealing with. So the war is real. And part of the war involves that, again, Roswell was in 1947, right at the end of World War II. And there have been massive programs involving trillions and trillions of dollars that built underground facilities. There's, according to Pete Peterson, something like 250 of them around the Earth. There's a sub-shuttle system. There's an underground train system that uses pneumatic pressure, an air pressure system. It goes very fast to transport people from one city underground to another. And these cities can hold up to 65,000 people. They have the ability to be powered by nuclear submarines. The original plan by the elite, so-called elite, was that they were going to nuke the surface of the planet, and then there's all these tunnels that they would have, these elevator shafts in various locations that take them underground. I think actually some of the new posts that we'll talk about on Sunday had some allusions to this in there, believe it or not. You go into these elevator shafts, you go underground into these underground bases, nuclear submarines fire off their ordnance, and now they've got breeder reactors on them, but they don't have any more weapons to fire. They then park into these sockets along the coast. It's like plugging in a plug to a wall outlet, and now the breeder reactor inside the nuclear sub is going to power these underground cities. And they can transport materials from one city to another underground using this so-called sub-shuttle system. So it sounds crazy, it sounds dubious, but again, we are living in an illusion. You don't realize how big this thing really is. I'm probably just about the only prominent speaker out there who's ever had this much access to whistleblowers. I mean, Dr. Stephen Greer's done a great job. He's had a number of whistleblowers. I've also gotten a lot of unique information from people who didn't want to talk to Greer. They only wanted to talk to me. Some of them just said they didn't trust Greer for whatever reason. That's just reality. So they've come forward. Project Camelot brought a lot of these people forward. Project Camelot brought Pete Peterson forward. Those videos are very amazing. And we are not going to stay in the dark for much longer. According to Pete Peterson and many other insiders, including Uncle Jack from Australia, who I impersonate as calling the geezer, we're dealing with underground and off-planet bases. There's many of them on the moon. There's many of them on Mars. They're throughout our solar system and 65 other locations throughout the galaxy, just for America, in which people in the military who are brought in on the highest level of secrecy, they're sworn to secrecy, and they threaten you. They'll run a drill through your hand if you talk, so nobody wants to talk. They're all threatened. They're all under surveillance. So people keep really quiet. You have to almost be suicidal to want to talk, honestly. But what they're told is, yeah, we have this very real situation, and then they sign up, they give their rights away. A lot of them, there was a brain drain in the 1950s where many of the cream of the crop, I see a bunch of donations going by. Carl Moffat, F.O. Fortin, Violet Force, thank you all for donating. I really appreciate it. So what we hear is that in the 1950s, there was a brain drain. 85% of the scientists they brought in were from other countries, not America. And they brought in 24 million people, I believe is what Pete told me. They were all brought underground or off planet. Again, there's a lot of stuff on the moon. There's a lot of stuff on Mars. And Pete also said there are entire fleets of ships that hide behind the moon. There's like a cone behind the moon that can't be seen from the Earth. Another thing Pete said is that the moon looks like Manhattan on the dark side. And there's many, many ET civilizations there. So when you go into these secret bases, underground or off planet, you're dealing directly with human extraterrestrials. Now, some of them are fourth density, as Law of One would call it, which means they have still got an evolutionary body. They evolved from earlier forms. So as they evolve into fourth density, they typically get a bigger head, bigger eyes, but a surprising number of them look human. One of Dr. Stephen Greer's insiders at the Disclosure Project in 2001, which I went to personally, was Sergeant Clifford Stone, and he had a field manual that was given to him by a naval admiral who was read into all this stuff, and it had very detailed descriptions of 57 different varieties of human ETs, that are visiting our Earth, crashing their ships here. It shows you what their ships look like, what their faces look like, where we know they came from, various details about them. In case you encounter this type of ship, you can expect this being inside, and a surprisingly large number of them are actually human-looking. That's a very, very provocative thing. We don't understand this yet. We don't realize that these human ETs are actually not the exception but the rule. They're not usually scary-looking, although we do have insectoids, we do have reptilians, and we do have greys. But that's pretty much, and also Henry Deacon, another Camelot insider, told me there are aquatic types of people as well. He said that the Nomo that visited this particular tribe of Mali in Africa, as described in Robert Temple's book, The Serious Mystery, the Nomo actually are real. They have black eyes. They have eyebrows that are made of these little spikes. Their skin is kind of a bluish color, and they are aquatic humanoids. They actually have fish-like features. They have webbing between their hands and feet. They have, a fish-like body, scales, that kind of thing. So this is something that is astoundingly redundant. Skeptics who don't want to believe this simply have not experienced all of the things I've experienced. I do have a really good memory when something interests me. If I'm really excited by what I'm hearing, I'm probably going to remember it. And I've had multiple insiders tell me stories that correlate in amazing ways. When we brought Uncle Jack over from Australia for a Project Camelot event, I actually secretly whisked him away to Garden Valley, Idaho to meet with Pete Peterson in person. That was amazing because they exchanged conversation that was very provocative, that clearly showed they both were talking about the same thing. There's only about 3,000 people here on Earth who are read in at cosmic top secret level, which is, again, 35 levels of need to know above the President of the United States. That means Trump doesn't know about this, Hillary and Bill Clinton didn't know about this, Obama didn't know about this. And when you get to the really deepest level of the secrecy, it's what Uncle Jack was talking about, which is that there's two types of deep state, if you will, or the I word that has to do with something being illuminated. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to say that one either. There's a space program, and then there's a terrestrial cabal. The space cabal is incredibly different, and nobody in the space cabal ever talks to the people in terrestrial cabal. The people in terrestrial cabal, and this is the way the evil aliens like it, by the way, they don't ever want the people in terrestrial cabal knowing that the space cabal exists. So the people in the terrestrial cabal will never have any idea that this space version exists. The Roths, as you know, that's the color red. We've talked about them many times. That's who he was working for. They, in fact, work under the reptilians, the Draco reptilians who run this space program on the evil side. And Uncle Jack personally told me that he had been to some 2,000 different off-planet locations and that he saw hundreds and hundreds of different types of extraterrestrials. They have a portal system that they use, and a lot of what he was doing was reinforcing trade deals. He told me that there was an orange fungus that they were growing for a particular extraterrestrial race. It was very prized for them. It gave them spiritual abilities, but it's very, very difficult and takes a long time to grow this stuff. So that's one of the things they were doing, is growing this, doing it exactly the right way, and they got paid very well for it. A lot of what happens is trade. There will be trade for gold. So we as in people on Earth, in these secret groups, gave away a lot of our gold to these evil extraterrestrial groups in exchange for things like materializers, which would essentially be 3D printers for food. So if you work at Area 51, you can actually have printed meals, and they apparently can be very delicious, and you can get any type of food you want, and the machine prints it for you, and it comes out at the right temperature, and it tastes right, and everything else. So there are many people who are in these programs. Again, off-planet is very different than on-planet. There's only about 3,000 people on Earth, so I was told by one insider, who really know what's going on at the cosmic top secret level. But within that level, they are working in aerospace, they're designing spaceships, they're flying in spaceships, and they're interacting directly with extraterrestrials in these underground facilities. There are entire facilities here on Earth that have nothing but extraterrestrials in them. There's apparently a black obsidian pyramid in Alaska. Linda Moulton Howe has reported on it, and I was told that that is a base for grays. So the whole entire pyramid is filled with gray ETs. That's just one example. We are not alone here on Earth. That's one of the reasons why the ETs will not allow us to have any type of nuclear war, because there's plenty of other races here as well. And we get into the honeycomb Earth, the hollow Earth idea. It's not actually hollow in the center, but if you go a mile or two below the surface, you get these huge underground caves that can be 20 to 40 miles wide, that have, you know, mile high, several miles high ceilings. And if you go in there and you don't terraform it, it has a natural luminosity. There's this bioluminescent bacteria that grows on the ceiling. And then on the ground, you have these white creatures that look similar to the stuff that you see at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, where there's no light. You have little white shrimp, little white crabs, little white clams, tube worms, seaweed, all this kind of stuff. So what they end up doing, these extraterrestrial civilizations, is they can move into these areas, they can terraform them, and they turn them into something that has the semblance of being on the surface. They create an artificial sky that gives you artificial lighting, but it looks very real. They have trees, they have grass, they have meadows, they have mountains, they have buildings, they have roads. They don't use gas-powered vehicles, they use electric vehicles. And so there's no pollution down there, but people live, and you can pretty much feel like you're on the surface when you're down there. Apparently cloning is used a great deal. There are certain people who are cloned over and over again. So you might see the same face many times, and this is how they've been able to get millions of people as staff. Another thing Uncle Jack actually told me is that when MH370 was abducted, they actually landed that plane on Diego Garcia, which is a base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, and that the people who were on the ship were brought into an underground facility, and they never came back. So there are various cases. David Paulides has a movie called, I think it's Fahrenheit 411, or maybe that's the Michael Moore thing. But anyway, it's something similar to that. But anyway, David Paulides, look up his work. He's got multiple stories about people being abducted in national forests. That's where it's most apt to happen. Don't go camping in national forests, especially if you have colorful stuff. There's many, many cases of clothing being folded up, neatly folded up, and people are missing. There's stories in actual upstate New York of what sounds like a big metallic door closing, and people just disappeared when they were right there. So yeah, people do get abducted. They do get brought underground, and they might not be dead. In fact, they become workers, and you just never get to go to the surface again. So you're dealing with extraterrestrials, and again, the fourth density types, they evolved out of third density organisms. They look human most of the time. Some of them might have different colored skin. We've heard of blue, green, orange, pink, yellow, gray, silver, black, jet black, with really dark bloodshot eyes. There's one type that looks like that. Then we have lots of different types of reptilians. The three main types I've heard of that I can confirm is there's a greenish one that might have some brown scales. There's a grayish colored one, and then there's a yellow one. So you got green, gray, and yellow are the three major types of reptilians that are most commonly seen. There's another group that's called colloquially Oompa Loompas that people like Pete Peterson dealt with, and they're little short round people, believe it or not, similar to our notions of elves. There's other people that are very short. They're only like 7 inches tall. And Pete described having a meeting with one of those at Area 51. It seems that all of our legends about leprechauns, gnomes, fairies, dwarves, elves, all this kind of stuff is actually really true. Somebody just wrote about transparent aluminum with the sky projected on it. M. Martin, yeah, that's part of what happens. I don't know if they're using transparent aluminum or not, but hopefully in the future we'll find ways to make that material because it is an amazing substance. We will make it in smaller quantities. Like, for example, the cockpit of this plane right here, the SM-39, this is going to be made with a transparent metal. I think it's transparent titanium because when you go to Mach 4, that's the fastest speed. The engines go all the way down on the sides here. That's why they need to be so long. When you have that kind of a speed, you're going to get this heat factor that will melt through glass. So you need something like transparent titanium. You need these breakthroughs in material science just to be able to have it function without falling apart. So this is a very fascinating thing. And again, according to Uncle Jack, the Roths, and you know what the rest of it is, it has child on the end. They are very involved in this. And he said that they answer to the Draco reptilians, but the Draco treat them like crap. He said, I'll give you an example of something he actually said. He's like, mate, they actually get together, these Draco reptilians, mate, and they talk like, they're very, very acerbic, mate. They don't talk in a nice, polite way to the people here, to the Roths. They talk to them like the children, and they're very abusive, mate. They're very, very competitive, and they sound like a bunch of grandmothers carping about who they hate and gossiping over bingo, mate. And they even have the bingo wings. Well, no, reptilians don't have bingo wings. They're very strong. But this is real. This is stuff that, again, I got Pete and Uncle Jack talking in person. I got Henry Deacon and Uncle Jack talking in person. They were at my house. They went out in the backyard. We're going to learn a lot of things. This has all been kept very secret from us. I know it feels intolerable, but this is why I put all my money into Stavati Aerospace. I believe that this is true. I was willing to bet all of my wealth on it. Everything I could earn, I put into, why would I actually buy this facility in Niagara Falls? 180,000 square foot military facility with a massive hangar, 70-foot tall ceiling. Why would I do all this if I didn't think it was true? Obviously, I believe it. That's why I put my money where my mouth is. And there's really nobody else who's out there as a commentator talking about this, supporting the alliance, getting lots of followers, making money, who's actually taken their money and invested it directly into something like this. As far as I know, I'm the only one where I've actually made these tangible steps. We have a real military facility. We've been keeping it alive. Now we're finally going to get funded after all this time. So I understand how frustrating it is to think that there's all this stuff that you don't know, that there's all these ETs here. And I still have only been talking about fourth density ETs. According to the law of one, there's also fifth density. And at that level, they can project into a human body, and then they can dematerialize it again. And at that level, they don't look anything different than you and me. So that's what's ironic, is that in the fourth density category, they're going to look very different. They might have larger heads and larger eyes. But in the fifth density category, they're actually going to project into a form that's comfortable for us. They're going to look like something that we're familiar with. So this is really, really fascinating because all of the events that we're seeing in the world are being... There's a hidden theme behind what's going on. We're looking at what obviously seems to be some type of strange shadow war. It's an information war, as Alex has said, hence his title of this company, Infowars. And this is not what you think. The DS is very, very adamantly fighting to prevent you from learning about extraterrestrials. That's the last thing they want you to know about. They want you to be afraid. They want you to see them as gods, to see them as authority figures. The last thing they want is for you to understand there's a higher power that answers Christianity, answers Islam, answers Buddhism, answers Hinduism. It pays off all of these ancient teachings that we've inherited that often become religions. And we find out that these are not mythological texts. These are actual documented, factual, historical accounts. The Bible has ET contact. The Quran has ET contact. Buddhist scriptures have multiple examples of ET contact. So does the Hebrew scriptures. I mean, it's everywhere. So we're going to have a big awakening. And as I've said before, I have been used by these higher beings telepathically to convey a message, which is the earth changes that we were afraid were going to happen, pole shift, solar flash, tsunami, all that stuff. That's not going to be happening. We're actually going to be spared these disasters because we've learned the lessons that Jesus meant to teach us. to be loving towards other people. Enough of us have learned these lessons of love. Joy Berman just donated. Thank you very much. We've learned these lessons of love so that we don't have to go through this catastrophe. We've authorized a positive timeline. And so it's very important to understand that the most jealously guarded secrets by the DS are the forbidden technologies. This is the most dangerous thing to talk about. They will threaten you the most. They will attack you the most. They will take intelligence assets and put them on you. Those intelligence assets are told that you're full of crap, told that you're a con artist, told that you're lying. The assets don't even know that you're telling the truth. And their job is just to try to attack you and ruin your life. And they're very tenacious. I'm going to show you some examples of this today. Ezra, the Alliance posts I've been talking about on X Twitter, he's getting attacked by somebody called Beloved Vinehawk. And it's like every single time he posts anything that tries to expose this group, there's a Beloved Vinehawk response. He says, oh, no, this has all been debunked. And this guy, as he said in some of the TG posts, as Ezra has said, he goes after every single thing. He's just very, very active. It's like, who could possibly do this all day? Who could have the time and the money and the desire to do this all the time? Well, it's somebody who's on a payroll. In fact, Uncle Jack told me, in fact, let's put the glasses. Sympathetic Universe just donated. Dave, is Australia included in the events you talk about? Yes. If you ever heard of Pine Gap, that's one of the ones that's very much talked about. And we also had Violet Sonora donated $50. Thank you very much, Violet. We're already at like 4,155 viewers now. We're 41 minutes in. I got to remember I'm a little bit behind. Mate, I came in today on the piss. And I got to take some more of me piss again here, mate. Just give me a second now. Pine Gap, mate, and there's a few other places in Australia where we got these underground bases. Ooh, I just dropped one. I got another one right here, mate. It's still burning, it's still lit. Isn't that amazing? How does he do it, folks? But yeah, so Pine Gap is one of the places in Australia that actually has these types of things going on. Alexander Gentis says, indeed, we are not the exception. The human template is one of, if not the most widespread in this galaxy. Yeah. The Logos made man in its image, right? That's in the book of John. In the beginning, there was the Logos, and the Logos was God, and the Logos was with God. You use that term word. Well, the term word means Logos. I got to get my cigarette off the ground, mate. Don't want to burn this place up. Oh, we got another one from Donald Barker. Thank you very much. Your first super chat. So, yeah, Australia has huge amounts of underground bases. It's similar to the desert out in Nevada where Area 51 is. There's these huge amounts of land in Australia. I was also shown one on the West Coast. You could actually look at it on Google Earth. It's above Perth. It's kind of on the top, like on the top of the West Coast of Australia. There's a whole weird air base there. Go look at Diego Garcia. There's some really strange stuff on the surface. Uncle Jack told me there's a massive amount of build out underground. So yeah, there's multiple huge underground facilities in Australia. And they like that because, again, if you look at it, it's all just green on the edges and it's all desert in the middle of that continent. That's the bush, mate. And out there, they can fly things around. Nobody's ever going to see it. There's no habitation. Australia is really only a few cities. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth, and Adelaide. And there's some other ones, but I mean, those are the big cities, and there's just lots and lots of empty space in between. So yes, Australia is one of the most overlooked secret areas. There's tons of bases in Australia. And that's why he was centered there. He had a very prominent role in the space program. Kate Picker just donated. Thank you very much. We're at 4,200 now. Charles Lane says, let us make man in our image. Carol Rose says, spot on, David. These entities will do anything to keep themselves hidden. Stephen Greer has been trying to expose this for 34 years. He's just done a good interview with the DBP podcast. Yeah, I'm really happy that I'm not the only one doing this. And the haters who are the most violent really don't even, they're not regular people. They're actually intelligence agents. And again, Uncle Jack, that's what I was going to get to, mate. I was going to get to Uncle Jack, and he was telling me, mate, we've saved billions and billions of dollars by having these people be inspired by our agents. Whoops. Our agents are out there talking about these things and throwing shade on people like you, David. We have to attack them. It's part of what we have to do, mate. We can't let the truth get out too much. But what we're really hoping for, mate, is that there's going to be other people who come along and then they're inspired and they're just private citizens and they're inspired to pick up the attack and do it on their own, mate. And they've saved us billions and billions of dollars in intelligence operations, mate. You wouldn't even believe it. That's true. That's one of the things he said. Caroline Muzi donated $300 in MX from Cancun, Mexico. David, thank you for all you are doing. What do you think about all the flooding? Is it part of geoengineering on our end? Yeah, absolutely. The DS, the main thing they don't want you to know about is that extraterrestrials exist, that even the good guys in Space Force here in America, they have tons and tons of anti-gravity machines. All we're trying to do with Stavati is break that technology out into the open. That is the most dangerous thing you could try to do, because you don't need to pay for pharmaceuticals anymore. With the med beds, you can cure everything energetically. All you need to do is buy a med bed, and then you don't have to take any drugs. I mean, pain meds might still be useful, but pretty much everything we're doing is going to become obsolete on that front. So there goes Big Pharma. Then you got all the money that you earn off of big oil. That's gone, because now our company intends to make a device that'll cost $5,000. It generates its own energy indefinitely. Or, you know, one of the lesser technologies in this category is the thorium reactor. Thorium creates energy without any radiation, and we can make that fuel. We can mass produce it at scale, and then you'd only need to get a little glass of it once a year, dump it into your reactor, and off you go once again. It wouldn't even be very expensive, and it powers your entire house. But there's other systems that don't even require. There's a Cape Capture electron system is another one of them. We have several different options, and the power system is going to be so amazing. It generates so much energy that it could very easily run your entire house. Carrie Robbins says, God, I need a med bed. Corbin H. says, how many people have tried and ended up dead? Well, yeah, that's a problem. I mean, it's... And then Peely Wally says, when do you expect to have this device on the market? Well, we're trying to get this technology out there now. We're, again, about to get financed, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday. The first thing we have to do is the SM-150, because we don't want the FAA getting this exotic technology. So we have to, we don't want the first thing that we try to pass through the FAA be a hover car. The first thing has to be a conventional airplane. So we have a little project, costs $5 million for the SM-150. We're going to do that first. We're immediately then going to launch into the hover car stuff, developing that technology, prototyping that technology. That is going to be happening, folks. We are willing to keep going. We're not going to stop. We are dedicated to this quest, and we want to get the truth out. So I'm not actually even worried about it. I do believe we're going to be okay, but the stakes are very high. The negative really fights back, and again, as Jack was saying, what they want more than anything is to have private individuals get inspired by their trolls, their own paid trolls, so that they pick it up themselves. And we did have some of that during the time of Gaia when I was doing Cosmic Disclosure with Corey Good. There's Eric562 just donated. Thank you very much. We had about 30 people in this group that I called the Dark Alliance, and you know, they were almost entirely male, and they were very, very, very aggressive, and they were trying to do all sorts of things. Doxing, which I'm sure you've heard about. They want to publish your information online. They want to try to get people to hurt you, try to get people to kill you. They make videos all the time. There was one guy making a video almost every day. There were several people making hate videos at least once a week, all the time. Merkaba Light just donated. Love you, brother. What are your thoughts on Ra, a.k.a. Archangel Michael, mythologically being the father of Thoth? And thoughts on twin flames? Well, Thoth Hermes Trismegistus was, according to Casey readings I said last week, an incarnation of Jesus. So that is the Logos directly. Whatever happened with the William Tompkins story, I never hear about it in the media, news, or anywhere else. Was his story true? Well, there's some debate on that. Chris Beskar doesn't think it's all true. Other people I've seen seem to corroborate parts of it. He might have been blending real things with imagination. That probably is what was going on. Best I can tell, something like that was happening. And then News and Prep says, love you, love your books and videos. So yeah, this is all stuff that I've been dealing with for a very long time. Ryan McDonald donated $200, Australian, I think. So that's pretty amazing. It goes red when we do that. Thank you, Ryan McDonald. Better than Ronald McDonald, right? He's probably gotten that his whole life. Just like you can imagine what people have done with Wilcock. That was not fun in high school, having the last name Wilcock, let me tell you. Anyway, It's all good. It's all fun. Liz Straub just donated $20. Mom of 3, my 32-year-old son is autistic. Will I live to see him helped? Thank you, David. Yeah, definitely what we're seeing is that there's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to have this happen. It's going to be non-military just donated $15. Thank you very much. So we are now in a very interesting situation here. There's going to be new information coming our way. And I want you to understand that the alliance, as I've called it, this is the U.S. military and intelligence community, at least portions of it, and they are fighting for the truth. And the truth is going to be so much bigger. I asked Pete Peterson, how was this going to go down? This was back in 2009. He told me there was a group in the military that was following something called the Plan. It was created in the 1950s. It was funded by Howard Hughes. He was getting ripped off on all these military contracts. And what they ended up doing is they said, you know, we're going to expose this group and it's going to all go public. Now, the first thing that's supposedly going to happen is the group gets exposed. We're in that phase now. Then, when they finally have found a way to make it safe to do this without a global apocalypse, without the DS destroying the planet, they're going to make high-level arrests. And we are reading posts in some of our previous shows saying that it will predominantly be in D.C. and a few other places. Hopefully it's all going to be peaceful. Hopefully there's no violence involved. It's all part of a legal process. Many executive orders like 13848 were passed during Trump's presidency, and they are still in effect. And the thing that drives the DS the most crazy is they just don't know what the heck is going on. One of the reasons they raided Mar-a-Lago was they were trying to find the paperwork on these executive orders. They were trying to understand what in the heck is actually happening. If you watch the latest James Bond movie, the group that was in there is called, I believe, the Octopus, or at least has an octopus symbol. And they all just start getting wiped out, and they don't even know what's happening to them. And that is a projection of what's actually going on. So the DS is very frustrated that they don't really know what's going on. It's all in the dark. The main vehicle of communication that actually came their way was in the posts. These posts on 4chan, as I said, and 8chan that began in 2017. There's about 5,000 of them. It stopped in around, they had one or two in 2021, I believe. And that's probably when the last one, maybe 2022 was a couple more. But it mostly had stopped by 2021. Now they've really continued with the Shadow of Ezra stuff that you see on X. And so again, you really have to go there every day. This is what I do. I just leave one of the tabs open on my page. I leave it to the main Shadow page, as I just said, and I reload. And I keep reloading throughout the day because they're posting like 5 or 6 times a day. And as you've seen in some of my previous slides, there was one post where they were talking about these Black Swan events coming up. That still hasn't changed. We haven't seen these events yet, but they're coming. And one of the posts had 13.7 million views. Several others have had 4 or 5 million views. This is huge. There's hardly any other person out there, except for like Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, who are getting those kind of views. So they're getting very popular, and I believe it's because many other patriotic podcasters and influencers have heard what I have to say, and they're talking about this, and they're sharing these posts with their members. I know X22 Report sometimes links to Ezra. So this is not fake. This is a very big thing. And again, first you get the mass exposure, which we're having now. Trump's presidency was intended to help do that. And that's why, once again, I've got the Trump slippers on, folks. Just for good luck. Got to keep that armor of light around there. Got to have another drink of the piss here, mate. Got to get on the piss. The stakes are very high. This is not... That's, whoa, we got 2 more donations. Tarot Tarotina, David, you a warm bubble of bliss. Alexander Hentes, $9.99 of something, says, we are not the exception but the norm. The human template is one, if not the most widespread across the galaxy. Come visit the Philippines. I've been a fan for over a decade. I've read all your books. Your friend Alex. Awesome. Thank you, Alex. So Pete Peterson told me that the plan was going to have different stages. The first stage is a mass exposure. They need to defeat the deep state, really. And this involves just systematically removing their ability to fight back. So yeah, they still have weather technologies, and they're just clinging on. But many, many of them, if not most of them, have already been arrested, removed, made deals with, or otherwise are not part of the game. But what's clinging now is just a small remnant. And the Alliance is doing all this covertly. They're going into buildings covertly. They're arresting people. These are done under sealed orders. This is a very important point. You have these sealed indictments that get unsealed just long enough to do an arrest, and then they're sealed again. And so nobody even knows, the other people in DS don't even know what's going on, what the criminal charges were. Because if you have a RICO case, racketeering, influenced, corrupt operations, RICO, that's RICO, that was created in America to deal with organized crime. And so the RICO cases, they have to do the arrests in secrecy before everybody finds out about it. So like when Rudy Giuliani was cleaning out the mafia in New York City, they used RICO cases. And the other people in the mafia don't know when somebody got arrested. They just appear to have disappeared. So the DS itself is having these sealed indictments come and go. People are disappearing. They're ending up in Guantanamo in some cases, in holding facilities. Some of them end up dying. And the problem is that nobody in the group really knows what's going on. They can't get into these executive orders. They don't know what's happening. And it frustrates the heck out of them. We're now at the 55-minute mark. I started 15 minutes late. Sorry about that, but I'm watching my time very carefully. I want to talk about this type of UFO stuff for the first hour, and then we're going to go into the other slides. So Pete told me that at a certain point in time, and this was back in 2009, that there would be mass arrests and that probably what would happen would be a massive power outage. I was hearing this all the way back then. I reported on it in 2009 and 2010. I had a whole series of articles called China's October Surprise on my website, divinecosmos.com, that are still very prescient. We had whole underground cities being wiped out even back then in 2010. This is an ongoing war in the classified arena. And what Pete told me was that there would be arrests, there would be a power outage, and that there would be these 7 different movies that would play on an emergency messaging system that would tell us the truth. So that's always been part of the plan. And apparently these movies were developed a long time ago. They've been around for a long time. They're going to star people who you would never have expected would be in these movies. There's going to be some celebrity appearances that'll shock you when you get to that point. And it's almost certainly the case that as a result of the work that I've done, that my identity will no longer be anywhere near as obscure as it is now. Once people realize that I've been telling you the truth, that I wasn't lying about any of this stuff, my dreams have been preparing me that I'm going to have to deal with a massive amount of exposure. In other words, basically everybody's going to know who I am. And I've accepted that, and I'm not complaining. However, I'm going to have to live with much more security. I'm going to have to take this a lot more seriously. I don't have anybody visiting here. I don't have anybody hanging out with me. I rarely even talk to anybody on the phone. I'm incredibly busy. Just to make the time to do this show was almost impossible, and that's why I didn't have enough time, unfortunately, to get all of Ezra's posts from the last 2 days alone, but I'll get them on Sunday. So this is a very real thing. There's going to be a moment where you may have a power outage, but at least we know it's going to be a communication blackout, where you won't be able to get online, you won't be able to use the phone, but your phone might go, make this horrible noise, and then you get emergency messaging system. That's what's in post number 34. Anybody who says we shouldn't read it again, I mean, come on. There's people who have never heard this before, and that's probably the most important one to read. It was in my dream yesterday. I was in a trench warfare situation like World War I type of warfare, and people were shooting at me. There was bombs going off. There was fighter jets going overhead. It was total warfare, total insanity, blood everywhere. But what was happening was I was calling out these numbers, like the numbers that are in the posts that Ezra has been giving us on Twitter, X. And as I called out the numbers, just planes would disappear out of the sky, soldiers would disappear off the battlefield, massive victories would just happen. I just go, 34! And then all of a sudden, everything would start disappearing. And this was a day after, as I said, I had this dream where Godzilla was finally defeated. And that's a metaphor of the DS, the reptilian, the reptilian enemy. So Pete told me that there's going to be a Nuremberg type of event after that, which we're now calling 2.0. And this is just like what we had the last time. It's also similar to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission from South Africa. That's another example. So there's going to be these trials. You're going to see videos of people on trial who you already know. They've already been on trial. That's another weird thing that we learn, is that the trials already happened. They've already been videotaped, but then the people were allowed to continue to operate out in the world. So many of the people at the top who are going to be implicated in this, they've already been dragged into secret tribunals. They've already been found guilty by these grand juries that were secret grand juries operating on sealed indictments under the RICO stuff. Again, racketeering, influence, corrupt operations. They have to, if they're going to take down an organized crime ring, they have to get each person one by one and keep it secret for as long as possible. And they're doing this on a worldwide level. This is the greatest military operation in human history. It is going to be so amazing when people learn the truth. Frank Finley says, David, I'm sincerely grateful for all you share with the world. It takes courage to follow the spiritual path. Thank you. The trolls don't want to acknowledge that. May you receive all you desire, love and divine blessings. And once again, we're up to 4,500 people. That's awesome. Thank you guys for showing up for me. So, Pete also told me that in addition to these videotaped hearings, that there's going to be new trials, there's going to be actual public stuff going on. I may be invited to go to some of these and speak about what I've done and what I've talked about. I'm happy to do that. I will travel for that. Elohim says, Project Looking Glass, timelines converging, Yellow Book, Yellow Cube. Yeah, I mean, this is all part of the so-called DC Doctrine of the Converging Timeline Paradox, DCTP. That's very real. They had the looking glass device. They couldn't look past the year 2012. And Archangel Michael explains in the first book of the Michael Prophecies, again, available at thedisclosure.com. Enter in the discount code Revelation. You get 70 books for $70. It's $10 a book. It's my best work. It explains so much stuff. We got more coming in now. News and Preps. Had a dream the emergency message system went off, and a voice said Putin in an ominous voice with missile warnings going off on my phone. Wow, that's intense. Another one here. Love you, Dave. I honestly don't know if everything you talk about is true. I still appreciate you telling it. F.H. Rouse, donate $100. You seem like a good person to me. Please keep doing these shows. M.L. Weaver, as above, do below. And we have another one here. Donnie Livas, $500 in MX. Thanks for streaming often, David. I've been around since Project Camelot. I especially like your Wander Awakening CD from back in the day. You are the man. Thank you very much, Dan Levis. So I better stay on topic here, but thank you. Keep the super chats coming. I really love that. Somebody says, why haven't they gotten JB? Well, it's coming, folks. This is all about the exposure. What the DS specialized in, if you go back to Confessions of an Economic Hitman, that book, he talks about that they do stealth state capture, where they infiltrate a country, they denigrate the opposition, anybody who goes against their cult, and then they rig the you know what, and they make sure that only their people win. And this has been going on for a very long time. We have another one, Sympathetic Universe. Do you think these comms blackouts will be in Australia as well? It looks like we're the poster child for the WEFers and globalism compliance. I'm disappointed about that. No, actually, the people of Queensland have done some really great stuff governmentally. Australia's turning around really fast, but yeah, I would expect blackouts there too. And again, it may not be a blackout. It may just be a communications blackout. Tro Taratina donated again. Thank you very much. So we don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but I think that it might be coming soon. And we'll look at some of these comms. So let's start to get into some of our slides, because if I just keep doing this forever, we're not going to talk about how the shift is hitting the fan, and that's the topic of today. So this is an emergency broadcast because, again, the comms have been so heavy. What we're hearing is now impending in a very quick fashion. I, again, heard about this in 2009 from Pete Peterson, and what he told me was that once we get to the point that people learn that this evil group is real, they're doing the Positive Alliance is doing something similar to what Economic Hitman says, stealth state capture. They're being exposed. You're learning about it all the time. People are realizing that there is this organized evil cult that's been doing all this stuff. And they're actually very, very evil. It involves ritual ceremonies that are, on a Hannibal Lecter level. Very sick stuff. People wearing robes, masks, the masquerade ball type of mask. Incredibly creepy, like you saw in the movie Eyes Wide Shut. They burn black candles. They chant things about Satan, Lucifer. They're reading out of old spell books, and apparently, if you do these procedures right and you have the right psychedelic drugs that you ingest, then you see these negative entities that people would call demons. They materialize in the room. As I keep saying, they can't talk, but they will channel through somebody else in the circle. And as one of my other insiders said, it doesn't matter whether you believe it's true or not. They believe it's true, and this is as serious as a heart attack. Look, I've met with so many different insiders who've given me the same types of information. I've had them talk to each other in person, as again, Uncle Jack and Henry Deacon, Uncle Jack and Pete Peterson. Pete Peterson told me that once we get to the point where they're ready to do this, there's going to be a massive simultaneous military operation worldwide. There might be groups of people who get blown up. I mean, it might be that some of these folks provide violent resistance. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could. Hopefully it's all peaceful and they just get arrested, but we don't know. I mean, it depends on what they do. But that moment may be upon us. We're going to get a power outage or, again, a communications blackout. You get this emergency messaging system on your phone. You're going to learn things that are going to make you cry. You're going to hear about top politicians. You're going to see the evidence of mutilations and things that they did to other people. It'll make you cry. It's going to be very, very rough. I'm not looking forward to that part at all. We had a couple more donations come in here, so thank you guys for that. Joseph Floyd donated $20. That's the one I missed. So yeah, astral projection. I gave my DNA to the military in 2012, says T'Challa, Killmonger FX. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your support. We're now up to almost 4,700 people. This is a great crowd today. A group of 5,000 people is an incredible thing if you speak in front of them live. I've done that before. So we are really in this moment now where this could happen, where you get this message on your phone, you watch these very disturbing films, but now you learn that it's over. And again, the main thing that they don't want you to know is that extraterrestrials exist and that this technology exists. And I was also told by Pete Peterson they need it to come out through new companies. If it came out through existing defense contractors, then they're going to be sued because they had this before and they withheld it, and people are going to say, well, you damaged me and I want to, like Alex Jones, I want $1.5 billion. Well, you get a few of those on some of these companies, it's going to completely destroy them. And they, so we would never get the technology. So that's why I ended up stepping up and actually making myself known in Stavati Aerospace. At first I'm like, well, fighter jets, why would I want to get involved with that? Everybody's going to call me warlord or whatever. Well, look, we need to have more affordable stuff that works better, and then we're going to use that money, instead of putting it into dark and nefarious things, we're going to actually put it into things that benefit humanity. So if this is the most expensive thing that our country spend money on, the U.S. military budget alone is over $800 billion a year. Okay, so this is where most of our money gets spent. Let's try to spend it on something that's actually good for humanity. That's what I want to do. I want to renovate the view of the military in the public's eyes so that they don't have this Vietnam War era hippie hatred like Woodstock. Somebody says, Dodati Vinay Ratliff donated, are the xenomorphs from Aliens based on real ETs? It could be, but I think that really is more of an H.R. Geiger design, the elongated skull. We see some people like that in Egypt and so on. I had a whole thing about that in Above Top Secret, the movie. Above Majestic, rather, I'm sorry. Cosmic Top Secret is another thing. But anyway, you can watch Above Majestic, learn about the people with the elongated skulls. So, we're going to have these tribunals, and Pete told me that it really isn't going to be very long after we find out that there was this secret negative group before we get disclosure. And before we find out, yes, they have these technologies. Part of what we may even have is the unveiling of these technologies. Part of the mass arrest scenario may be the unveiling of classified UFO-oriented technology that they're going to start flying in the sky openly. It's going to freak people out. It's going to be the moment of truth. You don't have to believe me, but again, I'm risking my life to tell you this stuff. I risk my life every day doing what I'm doing. I have very stiff opposition. We're going to review some of that today. We're going to review how they specifically have targeted me, how they're trying to destroy me and my company alike. And it's very, very disturbing stuff. And it needed to get out. But I didn't end up doing a show for no reason. I did a show because, as I said on Sunday, we were reading through those posts, and we were reading through the original 2017 post they were linking back to, like number 34. the 17th letter of the alphabet, you know what that is. This is not a joke, folks. This is stuff that's coming into our reality faster than you can imagine. And if we wait until the election, it's too late. I don't think the alliance is going to allow us to have this fake run-in to the election with fake candidates who are not even going to be running because they're going to be arrested by then, okay? We also heard about JB, the current resident, and how he has to perform on Thursday in this debate, and if he doesn't do well enough that they're going to replace him. And Ezra was even speculating that there might be something untimely that happens to him as a result of this. So I really, again, don't think that we're waiting until November. When somebody argues that, I call that the November bias. I believe that is, at best, it's a misunderstanding. At worst, it's propaganda and deliberate misinformation. And I try not to be too vocal about it. I don't want to go after people who are giving us part of the truth. But for me, if I hear November election and it's all leading up to that, it's like fingernails on the chalkboard. I can't stand it. I won't listen to any show anymore that says that. Because clearly, if you actually pay attention to these posts that I keep giving you every Sunday, they are not telling us we're going to wait until November. Now, they may not publicly say that in their own words, but then they link back to these posts, and like the posts say, in the next several days, something's going to be happening. Well, they keep talking about black swan events. Those are huge, huge events. And so again, we had this unbelievable thing happen where Crimea got attacked with cluster munitions, which are very horrible bombs. Over 150 people have been wounded. 5 people have been killed, including children. And this was obviously done by Uncle, or whoever is running Uncle in the current regime right now. They're trying to start World War III. They want this to happen. They're being very provocative. Just like what we saw in the shootings involving these machine guns that happened in Russia as well. That wasn't too long ago, where a bunch of people were shot. So we're going to go over that stuff. And again, shortly after we learn the truth, shortly after we learn about the cabal, and you know, it won't be very long before we get disclosure. It may even be simultaneously. They may have ships in the sky. And again, you don't have to believe me, but when the internet goes down and the messages come up on your phone, then you'll know I was telling you the truth. So you can be like, oh man, David was right. Oh my God, I can't even believe this. David was freaking right. Yeah, that moment is coming, folks. And maybe, anyway, we'll do that later. But I'm excited about this because this is a multi-incarnational mission that I've been running. And there's some very strange stuff that ties back to my connection with Edgar Cayce, as we talked about. Oh my gosh, we got a bunch of donations again. Edgar Cayce. We have Leanne Boudreau, we have Djimbi Nzenga, Planet Earth is Flat Earth, and then non-military donated another $1. Thank you very much, everybody. And we're at 4,800 viewers. That's incredible. So this Edgar Cayce connection is something that I talked about in the last show, and it's really fascinating because I have this stunning facial resemblance to him. The Venture Inward magazine was published by the Association for Research Enlightenment. That's the Cayce organization in Virginia Beach that he founded. And he had just been working on a magazine cover where this photo was on the cover. And then he met me at the local Nawab Indian restaurant there in Virginia Beach. And I turned and looked at him in the same way that's in this picture, where I'm looking at him like this. And then he sees this picture and he's like, oh my God. That is like, he said he nearly fell over backwards when he saw the facial similarity that I had. And here's a detailed look of us side by side. This has been verified. Let's go to that slide, yeah. So, you know, that's back when I was blow drying out all the curls in my hair. I never liked the curls. I finally kind of accepted them now. It's more of an angelic look. But whatever, you know, this is where I am now. This is what I've chosen to do with my hair right now. I could certainly blow dry it again, make it all straight like that. But the facial similarity has been verified by portrait artists. It is astounding. And in fact, even among cases of reincarnation, as I said, Dr. Ian Stevenson researched this, wrote several books about it in the 1950s, studied 3,000 children, over 3,000 children in the Middle East who claimed to remember past lives. And when they had accurate memories that he could forensically verify, they had facial similarity to who they claimed to have been before. And there was one kid who remembered the names of 24 people she knew in the past life. Other children actually solved the mysteries of people who murdered them in a past life, and those people confessed and were arrested for the murder. So again, in all of the good reincarnation cases, there's this facial similarity, which again means there is some type of spiritual aspect to biology that we have missed on the mainstream level. Obviously, in order for the facial similarity to be this good, there's something going on in how your face looks that is spiritual. It is not just based on your parents' genetics, but there is some type of soul blueprint that modifies the way that your face looks. And again, it's not only that my face looks like Edgar Cayce, it's this astounding astrological synchronicity. Johnny Barnett, as I showed you just a couple days ago, sent in this chart where he's got Edgar Cayce's birth chart, the transits for the day of death, progressions at the time of deaths, and then the outer circle is my birth chart. And there are these astounding synchronicities between the two charts. I had some of this information back when I first got started online in 1999. Some of the first articles I put up were about this. And the astrologer Brian McNaughton had conducted this analysis and concluded that these astrological similarities were so unique and so powerful that it was something that you'd only see once in every it was the best synchronicity in 157 years after Cayce's death. And as we talked about on Sunday, go back and watch that show. There are all these connections, and it includes very tight alignments. I'm not going to go through them all again. I had them in here if I needed them, but I'm not going to do it again. Cayce, in case you don't already know, was known for doing medical readings. He has 14,000 of them that have been documented, in which he would give people medical treatments based upon no information other than that they are going to stay in their house at a particular day and time when he makes an appointment with them. And all you have to do is give him your name and your address, and that's it. And then agree to be at your house, whatever it is, 4 o'clock on Thursday, the 27th. Okay, fine, let's do that. Then the reading begins speaking. He goes into unconscious state. He goes into a self-hypnotic state. He unbuttons his collar and his sleeves. And the first thing it says is, yes, we have the body. It speaks as a we. Called itself the source most of the time. There's 14,000 of these that have been documented where he has no front loading. He has no idea what's going on with the person, just like remote viewing, similar process. It's totally blind. But he would accurately describe the person's life, the person's medical issues, their psychological issues, what's wrong with their body, and he'd prescribe, again, unusual treatments that would actually work. They would save people's lives. They cured blindness in some cases. And then, as I said before, there are certain times where Archangel Michael would speak, and then Cayce's body would levitate off of the ground, and it would be this booming voice. So this was something that was witnessed by many people, and it was incredibly fascinating. It was very, very exciting to be in that room. People would start crying. They would start convulsing with ecstasy in some cases, because once this is happening, you're just absolutely aware that there is some type of divine force in the universe. You're not alone. And we're going to now go through one of the most contentious things that I didn't go through last time. We talked about how Cayce's incarnations were described. His readings went into past lives that he and other people had. And they had, this is the thing that the trolls have hated about me the most. And when I first found out that I might be the reincarnation of Edgar Cayce, as you saw with the facial and astrological similarity, that made me very concerned. I did not want to be a freak. I did not want to be out there for haters to just rip me apart and say, oh, he thinks he was somebody else. Especially because Cayce said that he had been Pythagoras in another lifetime, the father of geometry, that he'd been King David, that he'd been Lucius of Cyrene, the author of the book of Luke in the Bible, that he traveled with Jesus as a tag-along. I mean, the book of Luke has it's probably the best of the 4 main Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. The best written, in my opinion. I think many people believe that too. And some of the passages from Luke that apparently I wrote in another lifetime, I read at every wedding just about. The philosophical text about love. Without love, I am but a ringing gong, a clashing cymbal. There's that whole text that everybody seems to read at their wedding. Many people do. And then, of course, not only do you have Lucius of Cyrene, you have King David, These are very, very major lifetimes. Pythagoras, there was a Persian king named Yult who was lost in the sands of history. But you also have Ra-Ptah, who was the original architect of the Great Pyramid, with a prior incarnation of Jesus called Thoth Hermes Trismegistus. No big deal, right? Wow, that's just like so heavy. I mean, the pyramid is the most exotic architecture on Earth. And we also talked in our last show about the pyramid timeline, last 2 shows. And first, in the show before the last one, I showed you the evidence about all these unique dates that were configured. And then in the show on Sunday, please go back to my YouTube page, youtube.com/DavidWilcock333. And again, if you want to see a replay, all you have to do is go to that page, and then there's a little word at the top that says live. You're not going to see these videos unless you click on that word live. So you have to do that. Then it opens up a new page and you see all my live streams. So go watch the last 2, Teachings of Initiation, and then Teachings of Initiation before the big one. Part 1, Part 2. But I still didn't get through all of this material. And again, the haters are coming after me so strongly right now that I'm like, fine, I'm going to piss you guys off even more. I'm going to read Casey reading 294-151 because that's the one that's going to make you the most angry. I don't even care anymore. I'm done with worrying about it. Clearly, Brooke just donated and said, hey, brother, I've been listening to you since the early 2000s. I own several of your books. I'm an abductee. I grew up in a government family. Thank you for your hard work. You make me feel sane by speaking the truth. Well, thank you, Brooke. I really appreciate that. Wait till you see what we're about to go through here. So, again, Casey's own readings said that he had been Ra-Ptah, and we read from the Illuminati whistleblower Savali, and she described a priest during the time of Atlantis who was a prophet of God, meaning that she's now a converted Christian. She believes in Christ, the divinity of Christ, and she was saying, yeah, he foretold the destruction of the people of Atlantis because of their wickedness. And these are the people who survived this catastrophe, call themselves a bloodline of Cain, which is again from the Garden of Eden. They think they're a reptilian bloodline. Whatever you want to believe on that, it's up to you, but that's what they really do believe. It's as serious as a heart attack, okay? So her prophecy confirms that they have inherited ancient legends about this guy, Ra-Ptah, and that to them he was an enemy. They laughed at him, they tortured him, and they killed him, supposedly, according to what she said. The Casey readings have a slightly different spin on that. We'll go into that another time. But anyway, when I found out that I had the same face, the same astrology, I'm like, oh my God, that means that I am Ra-Ptah, reincarnated, and there's at least one very major Casey prophecy about that very thing. And it was incredibly shocking. This is what the haters hate the most, so let's give it to them. Here we go. This is reading number 294-151, July 29, 1932, very close in time to the one I read you on Sunday. And it says, is it not fitting then that these must return? And they were talking in context, if you read the whole thing, about Ra-Ptah. I'm going to unpack this more on Sunday. We'll read more of this reading. I didn't have time to do that today. As this priest, and again, they always refer to him in the readings, Ra-Ptah, as the priest. So everybody, there's several books that have been written on this, including a book by Mark Lehner called The Egyptian Heritage. It's widely recognized that this is a prophecy that Ra-Ptah would return. And it said he's going to return in 1998. This is so fascinating. It was on my website from the beginning. As this priest may develop himself to be in that position, to be in that capacity as a liberator of the world in its relationships to individuals in those periods to come, for he must enter again in that period or in 1998. Whoa, a liberator of the world, he must return. Edgar Casey's going to reincarnate, and he will return in 1998. And I didn't realize that my astrology matched Casey's until November 1997, and it also said in the same reading that he would return to Virginia Beach. Well, there I was in Virginia Beach. I'd moved there in October 97, just before the 98 prophecy. People in upstate New York who were in a Casey group recognized me as his reincarnation. I had the same abilities. I'm doing these Archangel Michael readings. They were telepathically predicting the future. They were very prophetic. People would go in tears. They couldn't believe how accurate it was. And I did readings with Skip Weatherford, which are in the Michael Prophecies books. Little did I know that as I did the bulk of this work, again, the years 97, 98, 99, and 2000, those 4 years were where I was the most active, bringing in these psychic readings, very similar to Casey. I used remote viewing protocols. Those readings predicted what's going on now. They predicted the years 2021, 22, 23, and 24 with stunning accuracy. They said California and New York were going to experience huge problems, rioting. I couldn't even believe there would be rioting in America back when I got this stuff. It made me very uncomfortable. They talked about the Israel war, the Ukraine war. They talk about Obama. They talk about Biden. They talk about Kamala Harris. They have name checks for Joe Rogan, for Mike Lindell, for General Flynn, for Trump. I mean, it's amazing. You can't really even understand how interesting the Michael prophecies are until you read it. I've got 7 different books. They're averaging 500 pages long each. And in each one of them, I highlight the prophecies in red. And there's red on almost every page in every book. It's stunning. And I don't even know what to do with this. Honestly, I've barely even begun to share with you what's in Michael prophecies in these live streams because I've just been overwhelmed and I'm still stuck in book 3. I haven't even reread books 4, 5, 6, and 7 yet, honestly. But they are very amazing. So we're getting up to the midpoint here, but I wanted to get through this first. Again, this prophecy said, I didn't even really put this in the Michael prophecies, I don't think, because it's just something that upsets people so much. He must enter again. The priest will become a liberator of the world. Now, it doesn't say the liberator. This is not messianic. That's one of the points I made in my website in 1998. It just says a liberator. There could be dozens, hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. I'm just one of them, okay? But you got the face match. You can't change the way my face looks. You got the astrology match. You can't falsify the astrology. That's just true. Anthony Wallstra says, can't we basically consider David to be an earth angel? I can't really view him any other way with how much truth and love he's bringing into the world. Well, it looks like we're spinning here. I'm not sure what's going on. I hope that you guys, it looked like we might have gapped out for a minute there. I'm sorry if that's what happened. Gary Pastor just donated. But again, this is something that's been very hard for me to accept, having this prophecy laid on me, liberator of the world. I've tried to do my best to live up to that. And again, I'm a reincarnated enemy of the deep state from 12,500 years ago. I'm still doing it now. And it's certainly very contentious. And you know what? A lot of people have ended up treating me really poorly. I've had very bad situations develop. I've had a lot of really abusive things happen. People who seem like they're going to be supportive and they turn on me. People can't handle this prophecy. They don't like it. They get mad. And they really become jealous and judgmental. And I've had so many betrayals. This is part of the reason why I'm living completely alone. I hardly even talk to anyone. And so we had Eva Rosier just donated. Namaste, sending much love, thank you. So again, I don't want you to think I get off on this. When I was working on Michael prophecies in 22 and 23, I really wasn't on videos at all. I did just a couple per year. That's about it. Tarotina donated again. Thank you very much. So it's not like I'm enjoying this. I don't enjoy the ridicule. I don't enjoy the sarcasm. I don't enjoy the trolling. I don't enjoy being betrayed. I don't enjoy getting ripped off. A lot of people have ripped me off for money, lied to me, deceived me, betrayed me. This is a very common thing. It's not what you would think. You would think that if this happens, people would be really excited. They would want to help you. Instead, most people end up working against me. They get jealous and they just can't handle it. Because again, nobody else has this. Nobody else has this kind of lineage with the Great Pyramid. He worked with Jesus. He was there writing the book of Luke in the Bible. He was King David. That's the king of the Jews. He's like the main hero figure that they created the David bloodline off of. And he wasn't somebody, he killed Goliath with a slingshot, right? He wasn't somebody who already had royal blood, but they liked him so much that they decided that his blood was royal. Then you also have the fact that I'm the reincarnation of Casey, who did something nobody else has done. There's no other psychic source that compares to Casey. 14,000 medical readings, another 10,000 lost in a fire in Ohio in the 1920s, tragically. 1927, I think, is when it was. And he had this Archangel Michael thing where he was levitating. He had supernatural abilities, and he was speaking in this booming voice. As far as I know, that's never happened to me now, but it appears that there's some very spring-loaded DNA in me, and hopefully other people will have it as well, and that I will gain those abilities again once we go through this, what Archangel Michael has called the first wave of ascension. So again, I was briefed on the plan in 2009. I've been talking about it, about we need to support the military, we need to support them doing this, but there's very, very supernatural aspects to this that I didn't know about until, again, late 2021. Right as my divorce was happening, I began finding these prophetic passages and realized, holy crap, it's talking about what's going on now. And it wasn't really until 2022, once my divorce had happened and I'm here in the house alone, that I began unsealing all this stuff. And I spent the whole year 2022 just working quietly and alone, recovering from, it was very hard for me to go through divorce. Obviously, it's not a fun thing. And I was taking great risks with my life. And I think anybody, I don't blame my ex-wife at all, Elizabeth, anybody who had been living with me would have been very, very afraid and upset, especially because I had gotten death threats for doing cosmic disclosure on Gaia. And I ignored them. And just like a few days after I ignored the threats and decided I'm going to keep doing the show and made public statements to that effect, she lost the brakes driving my car while driving down the mountain in Los Angeles. We lived on the top of the mountain up in the Santa Monica Mountains in Topanga, 2,500-foot altitude. Thankfully, the brakes didn't go out until she was right near the bottom, but she was pushing the pedal to the floor and had absolutely nothing. Just a few days after. And so I published that. I published the evidence. I had receipts of the work that I did to get my brakes done. There was a numerical synchronicity in the price. And then the Dark Alliance trolls, as we were calling them at the time, they laughed at me. They joked about it. They thought it was funny. I can't imagine how threatened she felt that I'm going to keep going, but then somebody's going to kill her, not me. And I would be very brave in these videos. I'd go live. I'd do all this stuff. So yeah, I can imagine that the feeling of threat that she had was all-encompassing. And so, but I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep going. It was only after we had this separation, divorce, which was as amiable as possible under the circumstances, that I began to unseal Michael prophecies. So the whole year 2022, I was just by myself. And again, you can get these books at thedisclosure.com, enter the code word Revelation, buy the books only package, and you'll get all of them for $70. That's the best deal I can offer. But I really didn't even go into this prophecy at all, because again, I don't want to brag. This isn't something that I've been feeling good about for the most part. It's been a very difficult and traumatic experience to have this happen. So that's one of the prophecies, and then I found another one that we're going to go through now. Whoops, there's a little thing at the bottom. This is 262:49. Now, this could be read in different ways, but we're going to read it and then you decide. What is meant by the day of the Lord is near at hand? And the answer was from Michael, that as has been promised through the prophets and sages of old, the time and half time has been and is being fulfilled in this day and generation. Okay, so let's talk about that part first. Time times and a half time means 1, 2 and a half, so that's 3 and a half. And 3 and a half means the tipping point between third and fourth density, actually. So that is a very interesting thing, because we're in third density now, and then we're going into fourth density, and that's what's going to come next. And the 3 and a half point is illustrated in ancient Egyptian art of this. There's a balance beam that's got 7 slots on it, and there's a tipping point at 3 and a half. And then there's something called the swallower beast, and the swallower beast is a reptilian. It's like a crocodile. And it's going to gobble up anybody. Whoops, I did it again. Man, let me get back to that slide. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do this and talk at the same time. It's not really working. But again, we're going to get into all the other stuff about the posts, so just hang with me. If this Casey stuff annoys you, we did lose. Oh, no, we're back up to 4,800, so nobody's left. Anyway, so it says, the time times and a half time has been and is being fulfilled in this generation. So again, this represents 3 and a half, the tipping point between third and fourth density. And this is a big thing that Joseph Campbell talked about. In the Mahabharata, he talks about the war between the North and the South. And this represents the higher chakras and the lower chakras at war with each other. Are you going to stay materialistic, or are you going to become spiritual? And I would say right now, we're at an hour and a half. This is the halfway point in the show. So if you did need, again, if you're on some foreign timeline, you got to go to bed right now, come back at this point. This is a nice midpoint because we're going to do a lot more slides from here. I have just a couple more of these Casey things to go through, and then we're done. But again, this affects me very personally. The 3.5 point is described extensively by Joseph Campbell. I talked about it when my website first came out because Joe Mason was this researcher who was talking about dreams and synchronicity. And he was all into the 3.5 point, times, time, and a half time. It's in the book of Revelation, in Revelations 11:11. I have lots of detail on this in the Michael Prophecies, by the way. So the 3.5 point is where we're just about to ascend, but it hasn't quite happened yet. That's what he's talking about right here. The day of the Lord represents, again, the first wave of ascension. The Logos is the sun, it is the galaxy, and it is Jesus. It represents love incarnate. So Jesus is love incarnate. The universe is a loving consciousness. We got Real Itea with Krista who donated. I'm really sorry that you are tasked with this and your family was affected, but cosmic disclosure was a gift. It doesn't go unappreciated. Thank you very much for saying that. I really appreciate it. So it's been an intense journey, folks, I have to say, and really thankless for the most part. But then again, a lot of you send these messages in, and so now I'm just finally like, you know what? I don't even care what people say. If they say, oh my God, ha 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 ha, David thinks he was King David, David thinks he was Rata, David thinks he was Luke, whatever. You know what? Let them talk, let them say what they want. They're always going to do that anyway, but I don't need to hold this back because now we're really where the rubber meets the road. So again, it's saying that we are being fulfilled in this generation. The day of the Lord is near at hand. But then check out what he says next. Soon there will again appear in the earth that one through whom many will be called to meet those who are preparing the way for his day in the earth. The Lord then will come, even as ye have seen him go. Casey reading 262:49. Now, this does sound, I mean, it could be, it's considered, in some readings of it, considered to be a prophecy of the second coming of Christ, but he also predicted his own return, Casey did, that Rata would return in 98 in Virginia Beach as as a liberator of the world. And I had to go back and look at this. I just saw this today for the first time. And Michael Prophecies, you know, I was the one that brought this through. I've got a 12,000-year mission here. It's been going on since the time of the pyramid. I'm the only one talking about this stuff. I have the right face. I have the right astrology. You know, it's a very strange thing. Science hasn't cohered to this. We don't believe that the face could be determined by reincarnation, but Ian Stevenson gave us lots of data. It's just they don't ever make movies or television shows about it. It's not considered to be popular. So when you look at this prophecy, it's very interesting. If you think about it as Michael Prophecies, yes, it spoke to Trump, it spoke to Mike Lindell, it spoke to Elon Musk, it spoke to Joe Rogan, it's directly, General Flynn. It's got call-outs for these people in code, but they're very easy to decipher from, again, 97, 98, 99, 2000. So, yes, it could be talking about the second coming of Christ. That's one interpretation. It also could be talking about Michael Prophecies. Kenneth Bates just donated $50. He says, uphill battles are the ones worth fighting. Stay strong. And then Sarah Blurman just donated. Thank you very much, you guys. So again, back to this very contentious slide. If it's referring to Michael Prophecies, the part in yellow, this book has been a game changer. There was nothing ever like this before. And it's really doing exactly what this says. Many will be called to meet those who are preparing the way for his, capital, his day on earth. Okay? Let's go back to that again. Many will be called to meet those who are preparing the way for his day on earth. That's not actually, you know, if you're preparing the way, then that's not actually the second coming. You're only preparing the way for the second coming, right? You're the lead-in. It's not the actual second coming. It's just the lead-in. And they already said Casey's going to return in 98. And there I was in Virginia Beach, just like the prophecy said, in 98. And they're saying I'm going to be a liberator of humanity. So this prophecy very likely is talking about what I had to do with Michael Prophecies, the one who will be called to meet those who are preparing the way. And the alliance is the one preparing the way. And I've been down here in the flesh doing this for real. And then once we get through this, we're going to have the first wave of ascension. We talked about the Virgin Mary of Garabandal. I talked about that a few Sundays ago. And then 3 days later, this prophecy from 1961 that there's going to be this first wave of ascension, it's from Archangel Michael and Virgin Mary, was realized 3 days after I do the show. We have the biggest solar flash since the Carrington event of 1859. That was the sun itself, the solar logos, the solar Christ, confirming that what I'm telling you is true. And there's extensive evidence that the alliance takes this seriously. So only then, after somebody appeared in the earth to call many to meet those preparing the way. Who are preparing the way, by the way? That's Archangel Michael. That's these human ETs. We are going to be meeting them. They are coming back in person. They're going to look human. They're going to have a glow around them like what happened to Obi-Wan in Star Wars after Darth Vader killed him. If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can imagine. So, yeah, this appears to be another prophecy about me. I didn't realize it until today. It blew me away. And then the Lord will come, even as ye have seen him go. We are preparing the way for his day on earth, and only then will he come. So I could even put then in yellow as well. So this really doesn't sound like anything other than a prophecy of what happened with the Liberator. This guy that they said would return in 1998, look like Edgar Cayce, have his astrology, be his reincarnation, tie back into Rata. They said he was going to be more like Rata than Edgar Cayce. Cayce actually wasn't that intelligent. I've come in with a much higher IQ than he apparently had. He was an illiterate Kentucky farmer who only had an 8th grade education and basically farmed tobacco. And the only book he ever really read was the Bible. And he wasn't anywhere near as smart as I am, from everything I can tell. So I'm lucky in the sense that I came back with a higher IQ. I was more like Rata than he was. And so I'm just, honestly, I don't want to be criticized. I don't want to be hated. But I also have tried to live up to this legacy and really fulfill whatever this promise is supposed to be, because the world is at stake. And Michael Prophecies has been a game changer. There have been hundreds of acknowledgments from the Alliance through these coded communications, like we see with the Ezra posts, like we saw at the very end of the 17 post, that 17th letter. They were directly messaging me. They said, protect your DNA. They said, ascension. I don't need to keep going through this week after week, but I want to show you the underpinnings of who's going after me and why are they attacking me and why do they keep making this fake idea that Ezra hates David Wilcock. It's totally not true. Week after week, I'm getting stunning endorsements from the Alliance. I expect that they're going to call me into service. I expect that I'm going to be on stage. I expect I'm going to be... I had this dream saying that after there's this missile showdown, which is happening now, missiles were fired, okay, that this will bring about the defeat of the DS, and then I'm going to have to deal with this worldwide exposure, which, I'll do my best. It's my honor. It's my duty. It's going to kind of ruin my life in some ways, but I'm willing to do it. So let's talk about that evidence. This huge evidence, the big one, is upon us. This is the stuff that made me jump into action. And this started yesterday. It says today. That's when I took the picture of this. On the top, it says, this is one of his posts. Elohim just donated. Haters are going to hate, he says. Keep being unique and pro-humanity, and thank you for everything. Thank you, Elohim. I really appreciate that. This is not easy to do, as you can imagine. This is not easy for me to be doing this. I've been very severely threatened. So at the top, it says, Russia warns the U.S. to brace for retaliation after the attack. And then he says, retribution. When I saw this, it freaked me out. I was like, whoa. All of the other stuff they were just telling us, they're giving us these quotes from the posts. They're saying it could happen in a matter of days. Well, there it is right there. And then on the bottom, it says, in 48 hours, you will see Julian Assange. 5 months till November 5th. Now, does that mean, again, the November bias, oh, nothing's going to happen until the election? Absolutely not. What they're telling you, I believe, is that we don't have any time left. And so when you get Assange being freed, this ties back into PZG. And you think about those 3 letters, and what does that say? Well, I wrote about this stuff. has to do with this, actually. You know, this is nothing, there's no big surprise here, folks. So PZG, just connect the dots. It was a big thing. Everybody was talking about it for a while. And this is your clue, okay? That's all I'm going to give you. We have Prissy Gorman donated. I never make the live streams. I always watch the next morning. I want to say hello and bless you. Thank you, Prissy. And then Leslie Lamar, thank you for your dedication to this noble mission. Yeah, this is the show's about to get really, really heavy. So thank you for hanging in there with me. If you were a little bit bored by some of the Casey stuff, if you get mad at me, jealous, everybody seems to be very supportive. But anyway, the point is, this stuff came, all that pizza stuff came through because, oh, we just had another one. Ume D donated here and said, David, can you channel information about earthquake risk for northern to southern California over the next 2 weeks? Vedic astrology indicates an elevated risk July 12th, plus or minus a few days. Sending you blessings for all you do for humanity. I really don't know. I honestly have not gotten any information warning me that something like that is going to happen. So right now I would say it probably isn't going to happen. Certainly the usual suspects are trying to make that happen, but I just don't think it's going to work. So I wouldn't really worry about it. Clearly Brooks says no jealousy. We need somebody to do the work and step up. Thank you guys very much. The truth will set you free, says Bob Vergura. Sweeps just said, is in a donation, I wouldn't want anybody else giving that speech and representing my words. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, I do think that we're heading up to this. So let's go back to that again. He says, in 48 hours, you will see Julian. Lockstead 112 just donated as well. Thank you very much. Love your work. As we say in Australia, you are a true bloody legend, mate. That's awesome. Thank you. In 48 hours, you're going to see Julian. And again, the 5 months suggests we don't have very long to wait. So let's go, so they're giving a 2-day window. And again, this is the guy who, you know, drew this card for us, and now we learn what this is all about. And there was so much stuff that came out that was so deeply disturbing. I think a lot of people wanted to overlook it, but many people didn't. Many people in the millennial generation, there was a huge amount of this information going around on the internet, and it just went on and on. I can hear my dog groaning. She's pissed off that I'm talking when we're supposed to be making dinner, but she's going to have to wait. She's just going to have to wait. Anyway, so they give you 48 hours and they give you 5 months, and then they say, brace for retribution. So 48 hours, retribution. Julian, yeah, I think these are all interrelated. The retribution may not be violent. It may not be an eye for an eye. They're not just going to launch their own stuff. But Tarotina donated again. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think what they're telling us is the 5 months is, we don't have any time left. I really don't think we're going to see this whole 5-month run-up where we keep pretending that everything's normal and nothing happens. There's going to be retribution. They just tried to start World War III. Let's have another headline on that so you see what's going on. Children are among the mass casualties after U.S.-supplied missile, targets this crowded beach. And they blame Washington for these munitions that are loaded with clusters. Sunday, June 23rd. So this happened like immediately as I did my show. Immediately as I'm describing this great stuff, they got to try to drag the energy down. Thank you, Tarotina, again. They try to drag the energy down. They try to make it all depressing, and then they're telling us there's going to be retribution. So here's another headline. This is from Monday, yesterday. U.S. lawmaker, this is Marjorie, the firebrand, condemns the attack on Crimea Beach with American weapons. Imagine if Russia, she says, using a Russian satellite, fired these munitions on a Florida beach. Well, that's exactly the equivalent of what just happened over there. Now, are they going to react violently? No. But is there going to be a disclosure? Absolutely. And again, connect it to Julian. He's the father of the card that got pulled. All of this stuff that everybody, all the millennials were talking about, the millions of videos, millions of posts, all this stuff that we learned about code words, about people who were involved, about the people at the top levels of politics, these horrendous things they're doing involving the darkest, sickest stuff you can imagine, the most heinous crimes you can imagine. Who in the world would want to be involved in this stuff? Who would want to actually perpetrate this stuff? Well, some people are in it and they're very, very loyal. And so as soon as Julian is free, that means that we can now hear all the stuff that he had to say. Another one of the ones that they put out that I didn't have time to get into is McAfee. McAfee had the virus software, and it was put on everybody's computer, and they had a video on X where he's talking in a video about how he was able to get all this information. That's why they say we have it all. So I think there's going to be a huge data dump, and it could be this week. It could correlate with Julian may make a statement. Kim.com just made a huge statement about this stuff with Alex on Alex's show. It's happening now, folks. I am expecting that we're going to see a massive amount of disclosure. Sweeps just donated. I meant David was the guy for the job, LOL. And then Name Policy just says, David, do you have any advice for overcoming a repeating catalyst that seems to constantly antagonize your core sense of identity? Stay the course, keep your composure, you're doing great. Yeah, as I said, and we lost some viewers, but that's okay. People are having dinner now. We're down to 4,000. That's okay. You know, they come and go, but they'll come back later to finish watching. Mahmoud Abadi just donated. But we're really getting into the best part of the show, so you really don't want to leave now. You want to hang in there because this is incredible. So again, imagine if Russia did this, it would be all over. There would be, people would be screaming, they'd be going crazy, they'd be like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. But then they had this post on X about McAfee, and that means most likely, and they were also talking about things coming very soon this week. So I don't think we're going to have to wait very long. I think they're going to deliver. I think there's going to be a huge new disclosure. And, you know, get ready for anything. The Joyful Angel just donated, says, you are amazing. Thank you very much. So this is all happening now, folks, and I'm very excited. I want to keep going with the slides because we're already now an hour and 50 minutes in. So then this headline says, Julian is free. He's relieved after a time-served plea deal with the DOJ. He departs for home. He pled guilty to leaking U.S. national security secrets and is returning a free man to his native Australia. And then CNN slammed over mic cut exposing Jake Tapper's lies. This proves our point. Preview of what we can expect during this week's presidential debate hosted by CNN. So this is all building up to a head. And again, at the top, they're promising retribution here. And then at the bottom, they said, let's go back to that. Oops, let's go back to, sorry. They promised retribution. We'll get this right back up again. And then at the bottom, we had that other thing that says, in 48 hours, you're going to see Julian Assange. So this is a very, very tight time window. It's very exciting. I'm expecting that this is going to deliver like you can't imagine. And so who knows what we're going to see, but this is why I had to do an emergency show. And I'll connect the rest of the dots on Sunday. But the McAfee thing is also huge because, again, he got bulk data capture, many, many terabytes on all this stuff. So now I want to go back to something we talked about last time, which was MBS and his desire for accountability. Saudi Arabia Crown Prince MBS calls for blank to be held responsible for crimes against peas. He also called for an end to the illegal occupation and for the recognition of the state with 1967 borders and J as its capital. Wanda Jarema says, still not connected on X, been following you for years, restarted a stalled spiritual journey. Thank you, Wanda, very much. We really appreciate your help. Oh, now we're back up to 4,800 again. I'm not sure if this concurrent viewer thing is really right. It keeps going up and down really fast. But anyway, maybe some people are taking a bathroom break. I don't know. Sonia says, I know it is hard to share all your lives with us, but it really does help me to understand small snippets of my own. This autumn makes you 10 years my master teacher. Thank you. Well, I don't need to be anybody's master. There's no master-slave relationship. But thank you for saying that. A master does, it indicates a recognition of somebody who's achieved personal mastery in some way. And at least I've mastered being on the piss, mate. I got that going for me. Gotta take a bit of the piss, mate. We're trying to organise a piss up in the brewery here, mate. Girlie, we're not there yet. You can't have dinner yet. Sorry. She's not very happy right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put it that way. Okay, so this was very intense. And again, you know, they just got money. They got 66B from the Roths. That was another post we had that, again, indicates that they're going positive because here he is speaking out in the most brave way you can possibly imagine. And then it's a 34-second video. So there it is, folks. I do need you to hear this once again. So please hang with me on this one because this is very, very important. There's where you can go look it up. November 1st, 2017. And it says, over the course of the next several days, and again, now here we are, it's not even several days, it's only been 2 days, you will undoubtedly realize that we are taking back our country. And then they speak about Assange being free. That's a big development. They also say retribution. Our great country, the land of the free from the evil tyrants who wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light. On POTUS order, we have initiated, that's the executive orders again, we've initiated certain fail-safes to safeguard the public from primary fallout, meaning there's not really going to be a war. They just want you to be scared that there will be, because that's what's going to awaken people. Slated to occur 11.3 upon the arrest announcement of this guy who's associated with the card that nobody ever wants to pull. I mean, maybe a few people enjoy this, but my therapist tells me everybody who goes through this kind of trauma ends up having severe psychological damage. It's just everybody. No question. That's the way it works. Girlie, lay down. She's starting to annoy me. She's starting to pace. It's really getting annoying. All right. And so again, this is the DoD Law of War Manual, Devolution, Interregnum, and Continuity of Government. And we'll talk about those things on Sunday. I'm not going to have time to do it today. Confirmation to the public of what is occurring will then be revealed and will not be openly accepted. We're getting more donations. Woman Outside the Matrix, thank you. Pens and Kylan. I'm a long-term listener from New Zealand. Your videos are keeping me going at the moment. Thank you for that. Love and light to you. Thank you for being you. I really appreciate that. It's awesome. It will be, confirmation will be revealed. Well, guess what? If Julian is free, then confirmation gets revealed. If McAfee might not really be dead, and we find out what he captured, confirmation is revealed, folks. All these dots connect so beautifully. That's why I got so excited. That's why I had to speak to you now. It will not be openly accepted. People are going to have a hard time. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers. And remember, one of the posts they said is, oh, there's no reason, there's no fence around the Supreme Court. Maybe the Supreme Court's about to make a judgment. Maybe people are going to get arrested that way. And they're like, well, I don't want to be arrested. And then people are going to riot because you can't arrest him, you can't arrest her. You see how it's setting up? You see what I'm talking about? It's all getting ready to happen, folks. In serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more senior public officials. Whoa! On his order, a state of temporary military control will be actioned and special ops carried out. That's exactly what Pete was telling me about in 2009, folks. It's happening right now. Unbelievable. It makes me nervous, honestly. False leaks have been made to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent extradition special operator necessity. One of the false leaks may be, hey, everything's going to be fine for the next 5 months, or war is going to happen in October in the next 4 months. That's a false leak. It's happening now. I don't think we're waiting. Shelley just donated 50 Canadian. Thank you very much. And we're now almost at 5,000 viewers. This is incredible. Thank you, guys. This is a huge crowd. I love it. So again, confirmation will then be revealed. It will not be openly accepted. They're going to try to prevent people from being arrested through riots. That means it could be from the Supreme Court. Then you'll have some type of temporary control, special ops carried out. Wow, it's so crazy, folks. It's just like it's all happening right now. I'm very excited. Carnow90 just donated. Thank you very much. Then they say, rest assured, the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child of this country is being protected in full. That's what they meant to say. The word exhausted wasn't quite, I'm a stickler for verbiage. What can I say? However, unfortunately, the atmosphere within our country will be divided. This is worldwide. Many have fallen for this corrupt and evil narrative that has long been broadcast. That's why I want to do a show with great production value, 7 camera angles, soon to be 8. I'm figuring that out, how I can do a live show and bring other people in live. That's going to be on camera 8, which right now is just black. But I had a whole dream about that this morning. I had Alex Jones came to my house, and we were working on doing a show together right here in the studio. It was fascinating. And we got along really well. I had another one with Elon recently, Joe Rogan. Those things are probably going to happen, honestly. I think they will. So anyway, so many have fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative. Then it says, we will initiate the emergency message system during this time. So there's going to be riots, there's going to be some Supreme Court stuff, in an effort to provide a direct message and avoid fake news to all citizens. Is it going to work? Well, they say it's going to be an effort, so we don't know for sure. But again, this appears to be the realization of that Casey prophecy to liberate humanity. I mean, this is what we're doing. We're liberating people. And the one about, the one who's going to help people know who's preparing the way and prepare to meet them. That's Michael prophecies. It's fascinating. All this stuff connects very nicely. Tarot just donated again. Wow, David and Alex Jones together. Fine, 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 she says. Thank you. That's really funny. So yeah, if people want to work with me in the future, hopefully my life will be easier. I'm trying to find a dog sitter right now, so if I need to travel, I'll be able to do that. Because right now it's just very disruptive. She's right at the end of her life. She's very unstable. It's very difficult. Then it says they're going to initiate this messaging system. That's when we're expecting a power outage, and it's going to show up on your phone, these videos. It'll make you cry. You're going to see the crimes that they've done. You're going to see pictures of their victims. It's going to be really disgusting, but very necessary to go through. Organizations and or people who wish to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury. So yeah, swift fury doesn't sound good, and there's people who are trying to do me harm, and I'm going to expose them in just a few minutes. This is going to shock you when you see what's been going on to me. It's going to make you very sad, actually. There's my Taylor Swift joke again. I got to leave that in there. Certain laws have been pre-lifted. That's 13848 and other executive orders that we talked about, to provide our great military the necessary authority to handle and conduct operations at home and abroad. Some of them are going to be in Australia, mate. I have a funny intuition as I sit here and drink the piss. I have a funny feeling, mate, that Australia is not going to be left out. Let's just put it that way, mate. This is really something, man. This is like so intense. It's all coming to a head right now. And again, don't assume that retribution involves physical violence, because immediately after they posted about retribution, they say you're going to see Julian in 48 hours, and then they're reminding us, yeah, we're totally out of time. We only have 5 months till November. This stuff has to happen now. There's a learning curve. Once they air the videos, you can't immediately run the election. People are going to have to cry. They're going to have to go through a grief process. They're going to be so sad. They're going to learn about what this stuff means. It's going to be like, wow, we have been lied to, and people are going to need to be, going through sleepless nights. You can't do it right before the election. It's going to happen earlier than that. And all of the cherries are lined up on the slot machine, folks. This is happening now. We're at 2 hours, and I'm not going to make this a huge, long show. Then X22 report starts connecting some dots. He linked to this article on Gateway, you know what? Julian freed after reaching a plea deal with our Justice Department. This was undoubtedly facilitated by the Alliance. And then he says up here at the top, a lot of these keywords. June ETA, that's from the Post. Jim F. just donated, thank you. Seth, and you know the last name. Server, DNC, and TikTok. So he's seeing it. I think what he's alluding to here is, yeah, you know what? This is all coming to a head in the June ETA. That's one of the posts they made. I'll go back and look for that. I'm going to listen. I don't have time to listen to any shows right now, but I'll go back and read what he has. If you go to his page, x22report.com, he has text of each show that you can read all the stuff that he's going to talk about. I'll go and look for that post that says June ETA. But I think this is it, folks. I don't think we're going to wait anymore. It's all these different contentious pieces of data are all going to come out. You're going to learn about the nature of this card that nobody wants to draw, because Julian was the one who leaked that on WikiLeaks. That's where it came from. Never been disputed, by the way. Never been denied the authenticity. So, there's going to be riots against people being arrested. The Supreme Court might do something. They might want to have a fence for the riots. It connects so beautifully, and I don't think we have any more time. They can't wait anymore. Thank God. We're finally at this point. I don't have to keep doing this week after week, waiting for something to happen. It's happening. Alex also had what seems like a divine intervention. If you actually go in and read this article and see what it has to say, bankruptcy trustee discloses plans to close Infowars and sell the assets. Now, the main families that were doing all this, they wanted to take all of his money right away, and then the actual trustee who was working on a separate case said, look, if you take all of his money right away, he can't distribute these assets in an orderly fashion. So actually, it's going to happen in a more organized way, but what they wanted, and they're disappointed that it didn't happen, the families are disappointed that they didn't just immediately wipe out his entire bank account. Because again, that's what they're seeking. They don't want anything to be orderly. They don't want it to be done in any way except total destruction. But, you know, in my dream, he was coming out and hanging with me and doing a show here, and I think there's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff happening. I mean, it costs nothing to do shows on the internet. So, yeah, it's really sad he's going to lose that beautiful set. I'm kind of jealous of his set, honestly. It's so amazing. I don't have anything like that. I've done the best I can with my own house and some lighting tricks that I'm doing and a bunch of camera angles, but Alex has the best production value. Alex has the best set. And now he's got to sell it off. Same thing's happening to Steve Bannon. It's very sad. But again, they saved his butt, and we should all be very grateful for this. So then I got another signal from the Alliance. This was awesome because if you remember, I'd asked you guys, I did a poll. I basically said, hey, do you want me to do another show on an emergency basis? Yes or no? And everybody jumped up and said yes, and I got a bunch of really funny, great stuff on there. The very next morning after I did that, they did exactly the same kind of thing, which again, it isn't an exact endorsement, but it's in the vicinity. So I went and I looked at this thing. This was a post that they made. It says, should I make a post? I just asked the same type of question. Should I make a video? Should I make a post about strange connections between the Roths and Julian, or will everyone get offended? And I voted yes. And then exactly when I voted, it was 888 votes. You can see that right there. That was incredible. It's a synchronicity. So again, this quiz that they gave us, it says right here, should I make a post about strange connections? And this is exactly what I had just done last night to lead up to this show. Same thing. Should I make a video? So again, they're indirectly signaling, and then 8 is the number of spiritual completion. 8 is a very good spiritual number. It's actually one of the best ones in the pyramid timeline. And then 3, when you get 3 of something in a row, that's the triple-digit synchronicity. I've been seeing this on clocks for a long time. So when I saw that it was exactly 888 votes, I'm like, oh man, I got to take a picture of this. Nobody would believe me unless I showed you. But I've been getting synchronicities like this for a very long time. This was just another example, okay? So now it's time. Let's talk about some other stuff. As I said earlier in the show, Ezra has been relentlessly trolled, and they actually were quite upset about it. Oh, Cynthia Shannon just donated $50. She says, thank you, David. I've been following you for years. This is exciting and terrifying that we are at that time where the big things are going to happen. Be safe and God bless. Yeah, I would agree completely. So, you know, Ezra has been very concerned about this guy who is trolling them, and he calls himself Beloved Vinehawk, and he's just on every single post, community note on X, saying, no, that's not true. That's been debunked. He even tried to debunk Kevin Spacey. Oh, well, CNN says he was acquitted of... Yeah, of course he was acquitted, but, like, these are the rigged courts we're talking about. And they had put these posts up, and there's a whole show called Spacey Unmasked. I mean, the poor guy, I do feel bad for him. He's losing his house in Baltimore. And, you know, that's where he was when he was filming the... whatever the big Netflix show was that he was doing. It's blanked House of Cards. Okay. CNN, you're going to use that as proof? Wait a minute, go watch the show. There's multiple eyewitnesses on the show saying what he did. And again, part of it is he was abused by his dad, most likely, because his brother confessed to it, that it was, you know, this corrupt, horrific stuff that should never have to happen to a kid. The worst type of abuse you can imagine, short of murder. And again, you know, he drew the wrong card. And then they had pictures of him with the Clintons, and they had all this stuff. So it's like, wait a minute. There's these trolls out there, and they just attack everything. They say, oh, well, CNN says it's not true. Well, then go watch the television show. So they made several posts on TG about this. They were very upset, the Alliance was, about this particular character. And I have been plagued with the same thing. We have had somebody going to such great extent to come after us, and I want you to know what's going on, because unless I shine light on the darkness, it stays dark, and light is the best sanitizer. Truth will set you free. So now I'm going to expose the worst bully I've ever had in my entire life. Okay, this is all true. I named him in the last show, 2 shows ago. This was a week and a half ago, less than a week and a half ago. I said his first name. We know what his name is. We know that he lives in Canada. And he has been a member of the Dark Alliance since it started. He's been doing this basically for almost 10 years, basically 10 years. My ex-wife and I compiled an incredible amount of evidence against him that we were going to use if we ever sued him, and we've been sitting on it. And so I'm putting all that together, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that he's been doing. I'm not going to hurt anybody's identity, but you need to know how bad this is, and it will show you the kind of opposition that I'm actually facing. So here's one of the things. David, now this might not even be a real person. This might be him too. He's that clever. He does all this stuff. David, what is happening? I saw videos posted of direct messaging with Ezra. Supposedly, it was posted a few times and it popped up on my feed. Yeah, this guy uses one identity after another, after another, after another. I'm going to show you just 3 of them, but there's many more. Cameron Clapp says, I'm a J6 defendant experiencing the death of myself. I've lost everything. I'm so sorry, Cameron. I'm navigating and I know justice will be reconciled. Truth will set us free. Thank you, Cameron, for saying that. And thank you for the $50. Wow, we're now at $49.96, exactly almost 5,000 viewers. It's incredible. So he says it's been posted a few times. Yes, that's all this guy does. He posts it over and over again. I know the pictures could be fake, but this is a video capture. Please let us know what's going on. Well, the answer is it's very easy to make a video of a faked text conversation. So he went from posting these texts, and again, I've already been through this in previous weeks, but not everybody watches all the shows. This guy, and we know who he is because he's been threatening us repeatedly by email, my company, and I'm going to show you some of that now. It's going to be very disturbing. Salim L says, my number is 333 and my birthday is 888. That's awesome. Thank you, Salim. So anyway, this guy's he's probably quaking in his boots right now, but when we sue him, because now he's definitely going to be sued, the more he keeps doing this at this point, I think it's just going to increase how long he spends in jail. I don't think there's any way he can avoid going to jail at this point. And also, remember, individuals who wish to do us harm will be met with swift fury. So, dude, you are exposed, and you really need to back off now. But I need to expose what you're doing because, again, it's very easy to make a video of a fake text conversation. There is no evidence whatsoever. Somebody else just donated here. We don't worship you, but we definitely love you. He donated $200. Wow, Julian Perone. That's freaking amazing. Thank you. We definitely love you, David. I suspect that XRP Ripple will be involved in the next Black Swan. I know I can't be the only person in this chat who sees this as a big picture puzzle. Please consider researching it. I'll buy Michael prophecies on my next paycheck. Well, thank you. So, and somebody, William Frank says, Cameron Klepp, I'm so sorry for your anguish. I am too. So yes, the financial catastrophe might also be vectoring in all at the same time. That's also part of the Black Swan setup. It could all be happening and really converging at the same time. I totally do believe that's a good point. Thank you, Julian. I appreciate that. So what this guy did, as I said in previous weeks, is he's having this conversation in which Ezra is talking in very childish ways and very, very hateful, as if he doesn't believe in extraterrestrials, but he's made multiple posts about that. He uses childish little acronyms like TBH for to be honest. He doesn't ever speak like that in his posts. And again, as I said, why would he want to hand out his assassination pistol? Why would the Alliance, who is the military, right? If you go to the recruitment office and you say, I want to join the Navy, I want to join the Army, I want to join the Marines, I want to join Space Force, they're not going to give you the finger and say, get the F out of here. If they're putting this material out and it's getting millions of views, they want you to know about it. I have a very popular show. There's 5,000 people watching right now. And I'm loved by almost everyone except for way below 1% haters. There's very, very few of them. And indeed, it's basically this one guy who keeps doing all this stuff. So, yeah, it's very easy for him to fake these conversations. The voice that he chooses Ezra to be is incredibly childish, speaks in childish acronyms, and is incredibly hateful, and I don't think they would dare to ever be this hateful because, again, everybody would gang up on him. So, yes, he can create something in which he makes a fake chat, and it looks like it's Ezra, and then he photoshops in the real Ezra. You can edit video. You can edit over. You got the fake name there, and then you post the Ezra handle on the top of it. You make the video of scrolling. This is something he's probably being paid to do. I don't think this person, he's been doing it for 10 years. He's unrelentingly attacking us, okay? So when you see what's going on here, it's a fake video. We know who he is. And after I called him out a week and a half ago, he became far more aggressive. I said, dude, this is your last chance. We know what your name is. We know where you live. We don't want to have to come after you, but you're making it impossible because you are so aggressive. You're threatening everyone in Stavati. Every time that we have anything come out, he goes after them, okay? And I'm going to show you some of that now with all anonymity preserved. Every single time I make a post, there's at least 2 new troll accounts instantly within 10 minutes. I don't even know how people are watching it that much. Within 10 minutes, there's 2 new troll accounts that say, here's the video proof that Ezra hates David. And it's all these different names. So I'm going to show you some of them. But first, I want to go back in time and give you an example of how he attacked Stavati on January 2nd. This is only some of the most recent stuff. We have tons of this evidence. So this is an email from Chris Beskar, and I'm not going to give you his email address or mine. And so it says here, Dear David and blank, this is Chris writing to me and to another member of our board. I just checked email this morning and received the below email, which is incredibly threatening, from John Christian Spadavecchia. And we'll see what that is in just a second. But here he is. It's basically Spud and Veggies. It's a phallic reference, okay? He uses these weird sexual innuendos in the names that he chooses. So this is an example. Spadavecchia against Spud and Veggies. And it says Christian. He loves to attack Christians. This is, again, the worst bully I've ever had in my entire life. He flagrantly, dramatically threatens our company, says he's an investigative journalist, he's making a video, he's making a movie, he's writing a book. He gives us these scalding accusations. He tells us we're about to be sued. He threatens us. He says, you need to answer these charges. David is a fraud. David is a liar. David is a con artist. David is a cheat, on and on and on. I'll be responding to blank later today. This is the board member, but my general thought is that we are being harassed by John. If he does publish anything negative regarding Stavati, we should file a lawsuit for defamation. John, quote unquote, is absolutely insane. Now back to work on the pitch deck for, and this is the name of one of our investors. So again, notice the time, January 2nd, Christian Spadavecchia, Spud and Veggies. So this is the very end of this threatening email that he sent us. And you can see he goes all out. I understand and anticipate that blank's response to my email will probably be to refuse any of my questions or inquiries under the auspices of an ongoing legal case. As a matter of fact, blank is not a named party in blank, so I see no jurisprudent reason. See, he's trying to talk fancy, sound like he's a lawyer. He's really not. Why blank cannot comment or opine on this matter, since they do not seem to be subject to any judgments in the case anyway. I am most interested in the facts of the matter. I encourage blank to be responsive to my inquiries. Without a response, the facts as I currently have them will be all I have for my research and writing. Please do not hesitate to contact me. I can be reached by replying to this email or by telephone at blank, John Christian Spadavecchia. So again, Christian Spadavecchia is Spud and Veggies. And this is just one example where he writes us this crazy stuff. None of it is true. He's poking in. He says he's an investigative journalist, and he's being a total attacker. He threatens people. He threatens their families. Any name that I put out there, this guy is all over it. He terrifies them. We've had people almost crying on our board meetings about this. A couple people actually talked to him on the phone. He probably recorded those calls, and he just never stops. It's incredible what this guy is doing. So here's another example. He actually wrote this threat to one of our own attorneys. He actually threatened an attorney and said this: Hi, blank, you don't know me. This was on LinkedIn. My name is John Christian Spadavecchia. I've been researching and writing a book, sometimes it's a video, sometimes a movie, on Stavati Aerospace, a 30-year-old company with a checkered history. You have been named as a piece of their operation. And then he starts digging into this legal stuff that's been going on. Specifically, you've been named as the attorney who recommended to Stavati that they retain blankety blank Stavati practice of law as a result of your alleged referral to Stavati. As I am writing a book on Stavati, I'm interested in your confirmation of the allegations and whether or not they are factual. Please do not hesitate to contact me. Spadavecchia. So again, what he does is he threatens people. He tries to get them scared, and he says, you need to call me. And if you call him, then he's going to record it. And again, he does his videos. He makes these hate videos. And that's all it's really about. And he's been doing this for 10 years, a member of the Dark Alliance. So, you know, I'm not going to give anybody's identities away. If I gave out any of his email addresses, then some of you guys would go and attack him. And then he'd be like, oh my God, I got attacked. I got hurt. So we're not going to give out the email address so he can relax on that front. But, Yes, when we file a lawsuit, you're going to learn his real name. That might be very soon. As soon as we get money, we're going to start doing this. But he needs to know right now that we've got plenty of evidence to put him in jail for a long time, potentially years. And he just committed new crimes. He actually, like, keep going, dude. You know, keep on doing stuff, because the more you do, the more we can come back. So the day after I warned him about a lawsuit, he wrote this. So again, I named him. I gave his first name. I said what country he lives in, which is Canada. And the very next day, he wrote us this weird, crazy, threatening letter. So this was his response. Urgent inquiry regarding comments made by David Wilcock and potential legal action. Yes, please get a lawyer. Please get a lawyer, Mr. Canada. We would love it if you would actually get a lawyer instead of pretending that you're an attorney and faking it, which is a crime called criminal impersonation. I'm sorry, you guys, I got to drag you through all this stuff. Oh, Spada Vecchia in Italian means old sword. Digital Soldier says military will find him. I mean, that's what I would be worried about. And then Melody Hart says, if I see any strange posts out of character, it tips me off it's not real. Yes. Don't waste your money on trolls, says Elmo. No, look, we have to talk about this because this man is making people cry. He's threatening people. He's been very destructive. We can't put out any information that gives out new names. He digs into everything. I just want to show you what he did, folks. Dear Mr. Beskar, this is the day after I told him, stop what you're doing or we're going to come after you with an attorney. And instead of backing down, he responds as Pedro Mend. Notice the name in the from field there. This is going to be very important. There's a code in there. Maybe you can figure it out right away. P-E-D and then drop the R. And then does he want to mend something for these types of people? Well, we'll see that in a second. That's what I think is going on. Dear Mr. Beskar, because again, who am I going after the most? These types of folks, right? This type of stuff. He wants to mend that. He wants to mend it for those people. He uses very obvious code names. We're not being fooled here. Sunday, this is the day that I said, made the threat online, said, look, you have to cease and desist. The attorney told you to cease and desist. If you don't, we're going to have to come after you. That attorney is going to be involved in it, okay? Dear Mr. Beskar, I am writing to bring to your attention some concerning statements made by your Director of Advanced Technology. Mr. Wilcock claims it's true. During a recent board meeting at Stavati Aerospace, he made allegations. There's no allegations, it's true. Individuals are accusing him of using Stavati Aerospace as a platform to scam money from his followers. Yes, it's you, buddy. We know who you are. You put your name in the darn letters. I mean, he actually names himself. He's not very intelligent because he's named himself and his show in the letter. He gave his name in the letter that he threatened a major financial firm who have major attorneys. It's crazy what's going on. It's freaking crazy, you guys. Just try to understand and give me a little empathy. What would happen if this was happening to you? It's crazy. The worst bully I've ever had. Furthermore, he has publicly threatened legal action against those who question him or the integrity of Stavati Aerospace. That's not true. This is way beyond questioning. This is stalking. It's called tortious interference with business practices. It's called intentional infliction of emotional distress. It's called gang stalking. It's called harassment. Criminal impersonation, because the next day he's going to fake being an attorney and threaten me with a fake lawsuit that isn't real. This is unbelievable. So, blah, blah, blah. And then, look at this. The name that he chose, Pedro Mend, it's got a code that's right on the nose. You don't even have to look very hard to find it. So, yeah, dude, we know what you're saying. We know that you're putting these code words in your emails. You're not as smart as you think you are, okay? This is ridiculous. Additionally, now look at this. Look at what he does now. It's so funny. Mr. Wilcock has made highly inflammatory and defamatory remarks regarding executives at reputable companies such as GE and Disney, accusing them of heinous crimes involving trafficking and abuse. Well, I didn't name anybody, and the statute of limitations is long gone. The letter that I showed you was from 1984. That's 40 years ago. Nobody was named. There's nothing that, nobody's come after me, and so he's defending these people. Isn't that interesting? These baseless allegations not only damage the reputation of these organizations, but also raise serious legal concerns. Well, if they want to come after me, they can, but you can't have a third party like this guy sue me on behalf of some organization. That's not how lawsuits work. It doesn't work that way. If Stavati, please get an attorney, dude. Just please get a real attorney and stop pretending, okay? If Stavati is holding board meetings in response to Mr. Wilcock's actions, it may be necessary to seek legal advice. Yes, you're going to get a summons and you're going to have to get an attorney, okay? To address the potential implications and risks associated with his behavior, it is important to note that Mr. Wilcock claims to be utilizing Stavati lawyers. Yes, we are. In his endeavors, further complicating the situation. No, it just means that you're in trouble. As a responsible company, it is crucial to address these matters promptly and decisively, which I'm doing. Thank you, John Christian Spadavecchia. Thank you, Pedro Mend. I urge you to consider the legal implications of Mr. Wilcock's actions. We definitely have, and take appropriate actions to mitigate any potential harm. Yeah, that's called you're the harm, and we're going to mitigate your harm. Please get an attorney. Respond to us with a real attorney who we can talk to and call on the phone. And we're going to say, dude, you got to get your client under control right now. He needs to stop this right now. But it goes on, okay? He says, thank you for your attention to this urgent matter. Your prompt response is highly appreciated. Sincerely, Peter Mendoza. This is another name he's used repeatedly. And oh, look at that. Peter Mendoza. Look at the highlights. Once again, So then, yeah, you starting to figure this out, folks? You starting to see, he says, JC says if he's being paid to troll, he must be working for idiots. Dale Val says people who never expose evil and ignore things right in front of their face won't evolve. Christ likes courage. Will you be that powder puff? Jesus will tell you. Total Todd says law of the beekeeper. Please, David, feed your dog, says Roxana. No, I think a lot of people want me to continue. We're almost done with these silly emails, but I got one more for you, a couple more. They're quick, but I want to read through this stuff. Thank you, guys. Katmere Stone says, evil is the stupid choice. God bless David. And so, Kaleidoscope Eyes, he's the type of person, when he says something down south to two women or more, when he walks away, they say, bless his heart. Kwan Hong Chan just donated. On the topic of bullies, I had a dream where I was escaping from a high school bully. He threatened to kill me with a petrification blade on the full moon. I confronted him. Both of us got cut, but did not petrify. We made up and reconciled. Somebody else says, drain the swamp. So we know who this guy is. He's not an AI troll, as Alethea suggested. He's a real person. He has real videos. And his name is about to go public. And again, that creates unavoidable hazards. In order for me to defend myself, we're going to make him known. You're going to know what his name is, and then everybody's going to go after him. And he's not going to like that at all. So he really should just stop, because again, each time he does this stuff, he's adding to his jail sentence if we go after him. And now he's really leaving us no choice. So now he added another crime, which is criminal impersonation of an attorney. We got Pedro Peter Mendoza, yeah, isn't that something, huh? Spadavecchia, Spud and Veggies, right. So then 2 days after I told him we're going to have to go after him, then he writes this to me. He says, lawsuit underway. Well, first of all, if an attorney gives you a lawsuit, they don't write that in the heading. There's so many things that are so silly about this. Beth Eby donated $50. Thank you, Beth. And again, we're almost done with this. This is very quick. I just want to show you this. We got more stuff ahead, so please hang in there. He says, lawsuit underway. I want you to think about this. First of all, would any attorney ever write you on a Yahoo email? Absolutely not. They have a law firm. They use their corporate law firm email. Well, now he's going to figure that out. But there's so many spelling errors in this stuff. It's just ridiculous. It's David W. from blank law firm in California. We are serving a writ today. That's not even what it's called. Aimed at both the company and the individual. First of all, notice the spelling mistakes. He doesn't have the apostrophe in it. And the individual, a Mr. David Wilcock, regarding the evidence if wrongdoing, not of, he had a typo again, provided in cosmic secret by a Mr. Corey Good. Written summonings, and he's got an apostrophe in there that shouldn't be there, have been posted. You are required to attend court along with the other filmmakers at 9 hours on 7/7/24. Address is provided in both the written and email confirmations by my secretary. Please do not hesitate to contact our office via email or London HQ via telephone on blank. Kind regards, David W., which is my name, basically. Legal Director, Commercial Team, Blankety Blank Law Incorporated. Okay, so let's break this thing down. There's multiple spelling mistakes. If an attorney makes even one mistake like this, the judge does not look fondly on it. They get their case thrown out. There's multiple typos and grammatical mistakes. Peace Abel just donated and said, off topic, have you heard from David Seaman? I haven't seen anything from him. No, I haven't. But he used to be awesome. So all of a sudden, he switches to the same thing he's been attacking me about for 10 years, which is Corey Good. Now, first of all, I never got anything from a secretary, and Chris actually went and checked with this firm. They knew nothing about it. It's all fake. The phone number is fake. The email is fake. It's a fake lawsuit threat. And if you give somebody a service of process, it's a long time before you get a court date. If he thinks that in like 2 weeks that we're going to have to go to court, as it says here, 7/7/24, you are required to, this is a fantasy. I mean, he doesn't know anything. So I just want you to be aware of this. That's the last of the letters. But then he just, again, as I said, these are 3 different examples of names that he comes up with. He creates these fake accounts. Elizabeth Wilcock, Archangel Michael, Egyptian God Ra, Sophia Johansson just donated, love you, David, let's go on saving the world. So this is the same thing over and over again. Elizabeth Wilcock, and notice he's got Seraphine 37200, so he can make as many of these as he wants. He just changes the number. Now check the wording. He's got her picture. He's impersonating her. This video is conclusive proof that David Wilcock is blatantly lying about his association with Shadow. The DM messages between Shadow and X-User are genuine, not altered or fabricated. Of course, that's what a liar is going to say. David is a duplicitous charlatan and fraudster. That is a projection. Okay, here's one example. Boom, here's another one. Archangel Michael, Angel Michael. Same exact wording. Same exact wording, folks. And here's another one. Egyptian God Ra. Exactly the same wording. Who has the time to make 2 new accounts every single time I post and say this stuff? You see? It's so crazy. And then here's another one that he did. Will you admit to being a con artist and give people their money back? One Edgar Casey. So, again, folks, this is the reality of what I'm dealing with. That's the end of these slides. Sophia Johansson just donated. Mel Lazarian just donated. Thank you guys for donating. So actually, we do have enough time to go through this stuff. I want to review this evidentiary data with you guys. Because again, I believe that this person is being paid. I think right now he should be very concerned about what's on his laptop. He probably wants to delete all the stuff on his laptop right away because, you know, we've already got enough. We don't need any more evidence. But what other stuff are we going to find on your laptop? You know, and you really need to stop doing this and stop using names that imply that you're a predator, that imply that the reason you're doing this is because you don't like the exposures that I'm coming out with, okay? We've had enough. He's threatened people. He's threatened attorneys. He's threatened their families. He's threatened board members. He's very aggressive, and I'm tired of it. So the only way I can let you guys know how serious this is to show you what he's doing. So when you see these videos, it's not real. Ezra is very supportive, and it's one guy who just keeps, again, he makes 2 or 3 new accounts every time I do this, and you know, he's never going to stop. It's obvious that he's never going to stop. So he has forced us to have to go into the legal arena. So yes, Spud and Veggies. Yes, Pedro Mend. Yes, Peter Mendoza. Please, please get a real attorney and start talking to them about how you could reduce your jail sentence when we come after you, when people learn who you are, because this is coming. You've walked over the line. There's nothing we can do now. We have to do this. I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry. I mean, it's long overdue. We just have to be able to afford to do it. It's going to be very expensive. You're going to spend all of your money fighting this thing, and you're not going to like it, you know, and it'll take a long time, but we're going to have justice. So let's talk about this evidentiary data. First of all, this is one of the things that's at the core of everything, 13848, and here it is right in the Federal Register. It says, impose it September 12, 2018, during the last administration, imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in a U.S. election by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution, laws of the United States of America, da-da-da-da. Okay? So you can go look that up in the National Archives, and what you're going to find is that, yes, this did get passed, and this is what they're also concerned about. This is why the Roths are selling off their assets, why Wild Bill is selling off his assets. Eleanor Bannon says, you're brilliant and the world knows it. Bravo to you. Thank you, Eleanor. We appreciate that. So again, you know, I get my own trolls. They have beloved Vinehawk that's trolling them on the Ezra post. It's probably the same guy. I wouldn't even be surprised about that. And again, I don't know how he could finance this for so long, for 10 years, unless somebody's paying him, or he's at least just very, very, very dedicated to defending the people who he keeps alluding to in the names that he chooses. These people who have these certain crimes that they like to commit. So guess what? These people are losing their money, and this is where it's coming. Certain sanctions in the event of interference in a U.S. you-know-what. We've been seeing 11.3 over and over again, so now I want to go into what this really means. So this is post number 15. There's more good people than bad. The wizards and warlocks, inside term, will not allow another one of these evil people to control our country. Realize S, C, O, P, etc. are all controlled by 3 families. And then it says 11.3, 11.6, indicted, indicted. So that's a clue that this code word has something to do with indictments, okay? It's going to get a lot more interesting. So again, you don't have to hear any of my personal stuff now. We're going back to the global picture on this stuff. Then it says a deep cleaning is occurring. The prevention and defense of pure evil is occurring on a daily basis. They never thought they would lose control of the presidency. They thought they had it since making past mistakes with JFK and Reagan. Godspeed, and P.S. S is targeted. And then somebody just said here, and that he donated really well, Jack Farmer, you waited too long to hit the Spunman with a lawsuit. My child trafficking rescue NGO had them also. They only respond to a heavy hand, and it's not very expensive. Thank you for donating $100. I really appreciate it. Yes, we probably did wait too long. This guy has been incredibly aggressive for a long, long time. And I just, you know, now is when I could deal with it. I was in too much crisis to deal with it before. I really hope for his own sake that he backs off, but he probably won't. He's probably just going to create more crimes. And the more he does, the longer the jail sentence is going to be. So go ahead and add years to your jail sentence now, dude. Go ahead. You know, we're coming in. So 11.3, what is this, right? Here's another one. Oh, now we got a close-up on it. 11.3, 11.6. And then that's the bottom. The defense and prevention of pure evil is occurring on a daily basis. This is what they were telling us, and it all ties back to these executive orders. Now here's 25, where it says, big picture stuff, few positions allow for this knowledge, proof to begin, 11.3. Keep up the good fight, flow of information is vital. What the hell is 11.3? Here's another one, 26. Think about it logically. The only way is the military fully controlled. Save and spread once 11.3 verifies his first marker. Biggest advance drop on Paul. Now, the first marker they just said is related to indictments. And those indictments may be coming right around the corner from the Supreme Court, hence the fences to stop the riots, which they told us would happen. Retribution. Assange just got freed. And they said 48 hours. They mentioned McAfee. McAfee got it all. Big stuff is about to happen, folks. It all relates to this weird code number. And here we got some more donations coming in. Terry Watkins, $50, says, you're amazing. Koyman McKaysey, $50, says, thank you. Wow, you guys are donating very well. Thank you. I'm really appreciative of this. We need your help. We really do. And you can see now somebody is very concerned about trying to say that Ezra doesn't like me, and he's got to create 2 new fake identities every time I make a Twitter post. That's a lot of work. It looks like paid work, you know, to me. Anyway, what the hell is 11.3? Whoa, I just spilled some stuff. No big deal. Just get that on the floor. Whew, okay. That was my bad. I spilled over my own glass. But anyway, we're going to get right through this stuff, and let's see if I have any cloth I can use. Yeah, there's cloth right here. So, whoopsie daisies. The main thing is get it off the laptop. So just bear with me for a second. Then we'll get all this stuff to go on the floor. No biggie. We got it. I got a nice little absorbent cloth here. That's my own negative greeting. You know, I don't want to get mad at this guy. I mean, you know, we love you, buddy. We're sorry that we have to do this, but, you know, you've left us no choice. You've been so aggressive for so long. You've unfortunately just forced our hand. And when the lawsuit comes out, people are going to learn your identity. Okay, so let me just clean this up. I don't want to get electrocuted or anything here. Who knows how far these negative entities will try to go. And that was something that just, you know, you don't really want to have happen. So, okay, I think I got enough of it now. Back to the slide. The only way is the military. Save and spread once 11.3 verifies as the first marker. Well, that suggests an indictment is coming. It's probably right around the corner now. It's probably going to be from the Supreme Court. And we're about to learn what is 11.3. Then the next one, D's plus China equals 11.3. Imagine that. So once again, it says all assets are deployed. Important to understand for future events. So there's another example of 11.3. It keeps showing up again and again. And there's the post number 4524. So again, Gurley's pacing. Here's another example that's got it in there. Are they going to print millions of bees on the exact same paper using the same machines? Yeah, that's part of the evidence that's going to come to light. And then it says, nothing to lose, logical thinking. Is this about the virus or the E? You know, manipulated polls meant to legitimize the rigged results. Yeah, that's what they're doing. What happens if C successfully duplicates select Bs in battleground states? What happened if coordination exists with these states to deliver printing and paper ballot recipes? This is all stuff that we're going to be learning about. And then 34, we've seen this many times. We don't need to do it again. Not going to read it all again. But again, 11.3, actionable, it says 11.4. Whoa, 11.4, okay. So this is not really a date, it's something else. Again, D plus China is 11.3. And then here's another one. Indictment tracking, 4621. 11.3, Kevin Kleinsmith. Very interesting. What is this 11.3? This relates right back to one of our favorite things to talk about. Emma Caro just donated, says, thank you, David. Thank you, Emma. Kevin, you know, the probe that starts with a D, okay? There was a whole lot to this. It's all been secret. We don't even know anything about it yet. But this is all going to come crashing into our reality along with whatever Assange has got to say. It's all happening now, folks. We're almost done. The show's almost over. Former FBI lawyer will plead guilty to making a false statement in the first criminal case arising from U.S. Attorney John's review. I'm not going to say the last name because of keywords, obviously. Review of the investigation and the links between R and the 2016 campaign. Two sources close to the matter tell Fox. We got more donations flying in. Tarotina, she says, you're so honest, strong, and brave. Nobody will harm you. St. Michael is the best guardian angel you can have. And Mayan Mountain donated $22.22. A few weeks ago, I was catching up on your past vids. At one point, you said, look, we just hit 2:22 p.m. I just happened to look at my clock, and sure enough, it was 2:22 as well, days later. Yeah, that's synchronicity. It's very exciting when those things happen. So again, back to our slide here. Read the charging document from the Justice Department. And then this is part of what it says here. On about June 19, 2017, the defendant did willfully and knowingly make and use a false writing and document. Knowing the same to contain a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement, sounds like Pedro Mend, in a matter before the jurisdiction of the executive and judicial branch of the government. La 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 la. You don't need to read all this stuff. But anyway, here it is, signed by none other than the man himself, and you have not seen any of the stuff that he's doing because, again, this is all building up to the unveiling of the RICO after all these sealed indictments come and go. It's all going to come out in the open, but only at the end. Peace Abel says, what is 11.3? We're about to explain that, so just hang in there, buddy. Thank you for donating. And we're going to come in at under 3 hours, I think. It is located exactly in the DOD manual called Law of War. It's right here. You can look it up online. Let's look up exactly what 11.3 is. This is a picture of the book cover from this manual, okay? So you can see that I'm not fabricating anything. This really does exist. This is the big hit that nobody seems to get. It's a very commonly misunderstood part of the post, but we keep seeing this code and all these different things they're announcing, so I need you to know what this means, just like you asked. So now we're going to start with the end of 11.2. So we're going to go there first, and this is what it says. There is no specific, it's talking about an occupying power that takes over control of a country illegally, an invasion, and that's what happened if something was rigged, okay? Maybe in a certain year like 2020, it might not have gone the way we thought it would go, and the votes looked like they were going in one way, and it was so incredibly upsetting to people who voted for this guy and voted red that, wait a minute, it went blue, and in the middle of the night it all changed? Well, now they're an occupying power. That's the whole point. That's what all these executive orders are about. The alliance had to allow them to do this. They had to allow them to steal it and then assume the appearance of legitimacy. And so right in the DOD Law of War Manual, 11.3 is about what do you do when somebody steals your country? How do you handle it? What are the laws of war? Okay, that's what this is all about. And you can read it in detail. I'm going to give you everything you need right here. The occupying power does not need to proclaim that they have made a military occupation, and they certainly have not done that. They're not saying, oh, by the way, we did a coup, we took it over. No, no, no. They're trying to act like they're legitimate. They don't need to make a proclamation. So this is fascinating. The question of whether territory is occupied does not depend upon the issuance of a proclamation, which they never did. They just said, yeah, we won, you know. Territory may be occupied even though no proclamation of occupation has been issued. Conversely, the issuance of proclamation of occupation does not empower a state with the rights of an occupying power if it does not actually, in fact, control the territory. So they don't actually have the rights of winning it legitimately. And that's why the military isn't cooperating with them. It all connects so beautifully. A proclamation may help fix the date of the beginning of the occupation, which they didn't do in this case. The proclamation may also advise inhabitants of occupied territory of rules that they must comply with, which again they never did. They're just acting like they're real. In particular, the proclamation may be used to advise inhabitants of changes to law, including penal law. They've certainly been making changes to law about like immigration, all that stuff. The general practice of the U.S. has been to make the fact of occupation known by a proclamation or similar notice. That didn't happen here. They can only do it in code. In addition to giving, which is what 11.3 means, and we're about to hit that now. In addition to giving notice to the inhabitants of occupied territory, they may give notice to other governments. This was done covertly, but not out in the open. In some cases, the UN Security Council recognizes that they are under occupation. Now, here it is. 11.3, the end of a belligerent occupation. Belligerent meaning evil, violent, that they stole it. It was a coup. Okay, look at this. This is the main number that the code they keep giving us in all these posts that I've been reading you over and over again, including ones that they just gave us a couple days ago. It all relates to things that are about to happen now. Now you're getting the truth, finally. The status of belligerent occupation will end when the conditions for its application are no longer met. And that's what's happening now. That's why it's 11.3. Certain GC obligations with respect to occupied territory, I'm not sure what GC means, I'm sure they explained it, continue for the duration of the occupation after the general close of military occupations. 11.3.1, the end of the occupation. That means that this whole thing's coming to an end, folks. Here it is. Belligerent occupation, which is what we have now, ceases, meaning it ends, when the conditions for its application are no longer met. As discussed below, the belligerent occupation ceases when the invader no longer is governing the occupied territory factually, which they are not, or when a hostile relationship no longer exists between the state of the occupied territory and its power. That is definitely still hostile. Belligerent occupation ends when the occupying power no longer has effectively placed the occupied territory under its control. For example, an uprising by the local population. Okay, they're talking about that might happen. There could be an uprising. May prevent the occupying power from actually enforcing its authority over the territory they occupied. Similarly, the occupying power's expulsion or complete withdrawal from the territory would also suffice. Non-military just donated. Kamau Nani just donated. Thank you very much. Similarly, the occupying power's expulsion or complete withdrawal from the territory would also suffice because the former occupying power generally would not be able to sufficiently control the territory. Belligerent occupation also may end when a hostile relationship no longer exists between the occupying power and the state, although as discussed in the following subsection, certain obligations may continue to apply. For example, if a new independent government of the previously occupied territory assumes control of the territory, consents to the presence of these previous forces, which is not going to happen, then this would no longer be considered belligerent. Similarly, if there's a peace treaty and it legitimately transfers the territory, that's not going to happen either. However, the occupying power is not permitted under the law of belligerent occupation to annex the territory. So again, all this stuff is what 11.3 means. And it's clearly talking about the end of a belligerent evil occupation. It's fascinating. This is what's going to happen. We're going to learn about all this stuff. We're going to learn about the laws they passed and how it's working. Then they also mentioned 11.4. Here's that stuff. Military occupation of enemy territory involves a complicated trilateral set of legal relationships between the occupying power, the temporarily ousted sovereign authority, who's the one that really won whatever this thing was that happened in 2020, and the inhabitants of the territory. The fact of occupation gives the occupying power the right to govern the territory temporarily, but does not transfer sovereignty to them. That's a very interesting thing. They were allowed to appear to be in control, to govern temporarily, but it's not real. Military is not in support of them, and they are certainly not going to start World War III over this stuff either. That's why instead of it being a force attack, you're seeing Julian, you're seeing McAfee, you're seeing things that might happen this week, big data disclosures that could happen. So 11.4.1, right of the occupying power to temporarily govern. The right to govern the territory of the enemy during its military occupation is one of the incidents of war. By fact of occupation, i.e. the occupying power's established power over occupied territory, the occupying power is conferred the authority to exercise some of the rights of sovereignty. Okay? The exercise of these sovereign rights also results from the necessity to maintain law and order. This is why they need to have this appear that it's okay so that law and order, we don't descend into anarchy. They're letting this happen. The alliance is allowing this to happen. Indispensable, the maintaining of law and order is indispensable both to the inhabitants and to the occupying force, and the failure or inability of legitimate government to exercise its functions or undesirability allowing it to do so. Then 11.4.2, limitations on the power of the occupying power stemming from its lack of sovereignty over occupied territory. Belligerent occupation in a foreign war being based upon possession of territory necessarily implies that the sovereignty of the occupied territory is not vested in the occupying power, meaning they do not have our sovereignty. Occupation is only provisional. They're not actually in control. They don't have our sovereignty. They don't have our freedom. They're just being allowed to play a game. And they keep giving you these code numbers, even in the posts, which are already kind of coded. Then they coded it again with, proof to begin on 11.3. The first indictment will shock the population. That's probably what's about to happen with the Supreme Court here. At the same time that all these other things happen. Financial things, Julian's thing, McAfee's thing. Wow, this is all happening right now. Since sovereignty is not vested in the occupying power, the military occupation does not authorize them to take certain actions. So there's a military supervision. For example, they are not authorized by the fact of their belligerent occupation to annex territory or create a new state, which they haven't been able to do. In addition, the occupier may not compel the inhabitants of the territory to become their nationals or swear allegiance to them. Well, they've certainly tried that with flags and everything else. Similarly, in the view of the provisional nature of belligerent occupation, the authority of the occupying power under law has been interpreted as being subject to limitations on the ability of their power to alter institutions of government permanently or to change the Constitution. Well, they're certainly trying to alter our institutions. They have not been able to mess with the Constitution. They weren't allowed to. And then we're into 11.5. We're almost done, folks. It's almost the end of the show. Hang in there with me. We lost some people. The legalese gets a little dense. I apologize. We're almost done. Hang in there. Only a few of you dropped out. The authority of the legitimate power having in fact passed into the hands of the occupier, the latter shall take, meaning the legitimate power, they will take all the measures in their power to restore and ensure, as far as possible, the rule of law. The duty to respect, unless absolutely prevented, the laws in force in the country is interpreted not only to local laws, such as regulations, executive orders, ordinances, decrees. And here's the last one. Protection of the population while they are under occupation. So this means we're being protected by the military as they've allowed this thing to play out for the last 4 years, folks. It's fascinating. I think this is very interesting. Nobody talks about this. Nobody really gets into the weeds and reads this to you. That's why I'm doing it. General protections, including humane treatment of the population, and that's what they're making sure is going to happen. The military is ensuring that we're being treated humanely. They've tried very hard to push things, but none of it's worked. The population of an occupied territory, like other protected persons under the Geneva Convention, that's what GC means, I just remembered, they are entitled in all circumstances to respect for their persons, their honor, their family rights, their religious convictions and practices, and their manners and customs. Well, we certainly haven't been very respected on these things, but nor has it become a complete police state either. They shall at all times be treated humanely, and they shall be protected, especially against all acts of violence, threats of violence, and against insults and public curiosity. This is what the military is doing. They are making sure that we're going to be safe. It's right in the manual, okay? This is amazing when you see how it all connects. Other provisions for humane treatment of people protected, set forth in Article 27. Crystal Peace says, keep standing your ground and keep your head on a swivel. Yes, absolutely. Other provisions for the humane treatment of protected people set forth in to the Geneva Convention apply to the population of an occupied territory. For example, women especially must be protected against any attacks on their honor, in particular against rape, enforced prostitution, or any form of indecent assault. Reprisals against protected persons and their property are prohibited. Hostage taking is prohibited. So they are doing as much, the military is doing as much as they can to stop these things from happening so it doesn't turn into total anarchy. In addition, protected persons in these territories shall have every facility to make application to protecting powers, ICRC, Red Cross, where they may be, as well as to any organization that might help them. Then 11.6.2, overview of additional protections for the population specific to occupation. There are a number of protections for the population of the occupied territory specific to the occupation. For example, specific provisions exist for the protection of children in an occupied territory. Specific constraints exist on the occupying power's ability to punish these protected people, to direct their movement, or compel them to perform child labor. Protection is also made with respect to food and medical supplies, public health and hygiene, spiritual assistance, and relief efforts and consignments. Well, not all this actually happened. I mean, we did have this stuff forced on us, as you know. But again, for the most part, yes. Following prohibitions also apply with respect to inhabitants. 11.6.2.1, prohibition to compel inhabitants to swear allegiance to a hostile state. It is forbidden to compel them to swear allegiance to the hostile state. 11.6.2.2, prohibition against general penalties. No general penalty, financial, which means pecuniary or otherwise, no general penalty, financial or otherwise, shall be inflicted upon the population on the account of acts of individuals that cannot be regarded as jointly and severally responsible. These penalties are prohibited, even authorized under law. So again, the military has been stopping this from happening. And then 11.6.3, protecting the rights of protected persons. Protected persons in occupied territory shall not be deprived in any manner whatsoever of the benefits of the Geneva Convention by any change introduced as a result of the occupation of a territory into the institutions or government of the occupied territory, nor by any agreement concluded between the authorities of these occupied territories and occupying powers, nor by annexation of whole or part of the territory. For example, an occupying power may not purport to annex an occupied territory in order to avoid its responsibilities. The occupier may not enter into any special agreements to adversely affect the situation of protected persons as defined by the Geneva Convention, nor restrict the rights the Convention confers upon them. Occupier can also not evade the responsibilities through a purported renunciation of the protected person's rights secured by the Geneva Convention, blah, blah, blah. So then it goes down, 11.6.4, citizens of neutral states residing within an occupied territory are generally treated the same as other residents of other occupied territories. So there we go. We now have the answer to what 11.3 means, and we're down to we're almost at the 3-hour mark. Sophia Johansson says, let's do a long, proper peace meditation day. Yeah, we will. So this is really, really great stuff. I'm fascinated by what we see here. This is another thing. Vince Free just donated. He says, we all appreciate this information that you break it down for us. This stuff is amazing. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been showing you all these posts. 11.3 shows up again and again. And now you understand that the military is allowing them to appear to be in power, but they can't change the Constitution. They can't take away your rights. They can't allow women to be violated in the street. They can't do all this stuff. Cindy J just donated $50. Wow, thank you. I feel really blessed by you guys. You know, and so it's fascinating. So let's look at this. This is one of the very last things I've got for you. Look at the difference between a certain flag that's now being used by the Dems in modern times and then what was used in Germany. I mean, it's the same thing. And if you look at it, it says anti-fascist. Well, put those two together. And somebody just texted me and said, game, set, match. Thank you. Yes, I think we're really close now. And everything is coming to a head. So this is, again, as it says here, irregular warfare. History is repeating itself. The same tactics were deployed in America. Compare and contrast then versus now. At that time, which is Germany, they had violent intimidation deployed by this agency. Now the same intimidation deployed by this group. Then they had battles in the streets, book burning, flag burning, destruction, hate, anti-police. Now, same thing in the streets, controlled by a certain party. Then physical assaults of opponents, now same thing. Then voter intimidation, now same thing. Coming 11.3. Again, they're telling you that's the end of the occupation. That's when the rights of the occupier are removed And we find out the whole things that they've been allowed to do this, but they weren't really in control. It's amazing. Then they project this anti-platform. The reality is to conform and obey strong-arm tactics deployed to silence opposing views. Now, same thing. Then radical anti-capitalistic platform of socialism. Now, same thing. Then they force economic destruction as a recruiting tactic to drive enlistment. Now, they're forcing economic hardships such as C-19. Then this group carried out unchecked street violence against Jews and their opponents. Now it's the same thing. Governors, mayors carrying out unchecked, deliberate non-prosecution orders, 24-hour release of these rioters, street violence, block-by-block takeovers. That's what they're trying to do, but it didn't really happen. D-Gov mayors release these criminals in the thousands from prisons under this guise of, again, C-19. Very interesting. Use of propaganda by Germany, the same propaganda used by these folks. Control the narrative, terminate the opposing message, censor them and kill them. This is the history of GS, assault on America. Ask yourself, why do they refuse to condemn the violence? Why are they refusing to seek a unified republic? It was never about the virus. It was always about something else. Was this party ever truly destroyed? Were they eradicated? Did their belief carry on? Did it get redeployed? What is the background of George? Wow. And then it says, again, prepare for zero-day massive cyber power attacks and attempts on 11.4. That's the power outage, folks. That's what we're getting ready to see. 11.4, now you know what that is. Very interesting. Sometimes when you read between the lines, this was Huber, the guy in Utah, the prosecutor. He did a lot of these cases. Everyone, and these are all sealed, by the way. You've never heard about them. Every one of his prosecutors is handling about 20 different cases, from domestic terrorism, court-authorized wiretaps of criminal organizations, to criminals of various kinds, and those who would exploit our children. Criminal aliens, big fraud schemes. C. Price just donated $20. Thank you. We're very close to being done. Hang in there. And so Huber's really important. There's 56 prosecutors. They did 20 cases each. That's what it just said. In the Utah office of the U.S. Attorney, as part of this story, we talked to Huber about gangs, drugs, and fighting crime in his state. To see hear what he says, you can check out his extra interview material here, or nominate an officer for the... anyway. If you add that up, that's 1,120 cases, and each one of these cases can have multiple defendants, up to, I think it's like 100 defendants. So again, 1,120 cases. You've never heard of Huber because it was all done under sealed indictments. That's what we're dealing with now, folks. This is very fascinating. He's going to become a big hero. You're going to learn a lot more about him when this all comes out in the open. And it's all happening now. So this is real. This is in your face. It's ongoing. And I am very deeply honored and very excited to be a part of history in the making and to be, giving you this information today bravely. Those 1,120 cases, we're going to be learning a lot more about them because all of the stuff I've been telling you to look forward to, it's all happening now. The Great Initiation is happening now. So with that said, we will now go into our meditation after I read a few more of your comments. So again, this is basically the end of the show. If you want to drop us, you can, but please stick around for the meditation. It'll be fun. We'll make it as fun as we can. And it's going to be fairly quick. Thank you very much, Valiant Thor donated, for all your invaluable updates and information. Love and blessings, divine protection to you and your pup. All right. Philip Van Scotter says, we the people are disclosure. Julian's been free for some time. He's been part of the alliance, says Michael Goldman. I hope that was true. Kwang Hong Chan says, what happens to air travel during the blackout? Is it recommended to fly during these times? Or should I postpone air travel for the time being? Well, I wouldn't be going anywhere right now. I would want to stay home, so that would be my personal decision. Kaleidoscope Eyes says, David, we're all with you in your Boulder Army, which is solid as a rock, brother. Kathy Renick says, does this mean local government will stop? No, this is going to be quick. They said it's going to happen quickly. It's not going to take very long. VK Victor Jones donated. Thank you, David, he says. Richard Osterman says, we have passed the Rubicon. Elmo says, more midweek lives, please. Well, if things keep happening this fast, Tuesday is probably the only day I can really do this, but we'll see what happens. Aggie94 says, David, you're right over the target. Keep it up. Scarlet Fire says, Patrick Henry, the Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain their government. Well, yeah, this is all constitutional. These laws, Law of War Manual. We got 2 more donations here, as you can see. Elohim and Laura Lejubis. Elohim says, to infinity and beyond. Laura says, what are your thoughts on XRP for planned monetary global resets, the only digital asset with financial clarity? I'm not really sure. I think it's going to be something totally different than that. Smoke 1789. Jah love, Jah Almighty God, the God of love, be and stay free. Tez Brooks says he did a video in the hangar once back in the time. Yes, I did. We do have a real facility. So again, I'm very grateful that you guys have been here today. Thank you. Boom Skivla says, thank you once again, David, for all your insight. We value your thoughts and commitment. Sending love. And Corbin says, Trump for eliminating property taxes. Amen to that. Somebody else says, I'll take care of your animals. David, why is the moon so gigantic? I've never seen this in 60 years. Okay, well, we already lost our 200 people for the meditation, so let's just get into it, and we'll keep this as short as we can without, losing the point. So, okay, without further ado, I'm going to ask you to put both feet flat on the floor, close your eyes, take a nice deep breath, breathe in, and then just let it go. And as you breathe, follow the path of your breath to the light. Allow your breathing to fall in whatever way it wants to in its own path. And just feel yourself becoming ever so deeply relaxed. We are getting incredibly significant communications. They're telling us that things could happen within 48 hours, which was again yesterday. Very exciting things are happening. What is Julian going to say? Are we going to find out that McAfee did not die? It seems like it from some of the things they've said. What will we learn? What will the retribution take the form of? And remember my dream, where it was right after this missile exchange that Godzilla is defeated. I'm in the trenches. I'm calling out these code names. Number 34, and then all these things are happening in the sky. Things are just disappearing. As you breathe deeply, as you follow the path of your breath, as you let yourself become more and more relaxed, you are part of the solution. This state of consciousness that you abide in right now is a consciousness of love, a consciousness of intelligent infinity, a consciousness that has been scientifically proven to heal the world. There can be no doubt that we have the control. And there is only the illusion that evil is in power and that it might actually be able to deceive us enough to gain complete power. There are laws of war. We are seeing these things unfold in our own time. 11.3. Now we know what that means. There are supervisors in place to make sure that things don't go out of hand, to make sure that the Geneva Convention is followed, that the occupiers can only do so much. They're not allowed to cross these boundaries. And soon it appears that all of the things that I've been telling you will be known to the mass consciousness. There may be messages on your phone. There may be a loss of power. There may be a loss of the ability to go online or to communicate. If these things start to happen right now, I give you full permission to just relax, to feel confident, to feel happy even, to know that at long last the struggle is over. All of these things that we've been worried about for so long will no longer be bothering us, that it's going to come to a peaceful, nonviolent conclusion. This is our reality. We need to have something like this. Otherwise, we would have all been doomed. And so it will be very nice to find out that we had helpful friends in the Alliance who were doing their part to make sure that we would be safe, to make sure that our planet would not be destroyed, to make sure that we are all going to get where we need to go. And then let us also remember the much bigger picture, which is that this is the ushering in of the reunion with our galactic family. The humans who exist throughout our galaxy, who have been here the whole time, who crashed here in Roswell, who exist in various underground facilities and are working with people in our governments right now and military right now. Think for the time when they wish to show themselves to us openly, for that time when they will be appearing in front of you, a luminous being, a human, who looks like nothing you've ever seen before. You feel this incredible resonance. You feel this warmth from this being. Imagine now that this being is standing in front of you, looking in your eyes. It has a deep, penetrating gaze. It smiles at you. It could be a male or a female, or you may see both at the same time. And you all of a sudden realize that you are like a child, and you are now standing in front of a type of parent that you didn't even know you had. All of your life, you've wondered if you're alone in the universe. You've wondered if there was a higher power. You've wondered if you were going to be safe. You've wondered if you had angels, if you had guides, if you had protectors. And now they have actually materialized right in front of you. They are looking you in the eye. You are looking them in the eye. You feel this incredible resonance. And they are talking to you with the love and respect that you've always deserved, but rarely ever actually gotten. Tears may end up streaming down your face as you realize that you never thought something like this would happen, but now that moment is actually upon you. It is real. It is decisive. It is happening right now, in the moment, in the now. It is undeniable. There you are, in this moment, feeling this incredible connection with these beings. And they are looking at you, smiling. They have a glowing radiance of light coming off of their bodies. And you openly weep. Tears are flowing down your face, and you do not restrict them. They are flowing like a river. And they are telling you how good you have done, how much they appreciate you for the kindness you showed others, how you judged yourself unfairly, and they have always loved you. And whenever you felt that you could not help yourself, they were always there for you in the background, comforting you, guiding you, holding your hand, carrying you if they needed to, so that only one pair of footprints exists. You feel this moment, you feel this resonance, and you realize this is your graduation. You have done what you needed to do. You are now being respected. You are now being welcomed into the galactic family, and you will now be allowed to gain amazing new abilities. Telekinesis, telepathy, all of these things will come into your abilities. Levitation, maybe not immediately, but these beings are congratulating you. They're telling you what a great job you've done. They're very happy about the efforts that you've made to be loving, to be considerate, forgiving, compassionate, and peaceful. And again, they reach out and embrace you. And when you embrace them, you feel this incredible electrical tingling sensation, this uplifting, powerful moment, unlike any other in your life, something you never thought would happen. Here it is. It's happening now. It's happening in real life. For you are the light. You are the love. You are the one infinite creator, and this is simply a reunion of self with self, where they are reflecting back to you the higher and greater aspect of who you are now, who you always have been, and who you will become. And so it is. We take this light that we've raised and we send it to all those in the planet in need of prayer and healing. We send it to those who have attacked us and hurt us. We encourage forgiveness as well as boundaries to not allow this to happen anymore. And send the light back to yourself. In the name of Jesus Christ, we do authorize and acknowledge this healing, and we declare it to be made today at this time. And so it is. And now let yourself start to drift back, wiggle your fingers and toes. Come back to the room. Woo, that was intense. We lost about 500 people. They couldn't quite handle the voltage of meeting your angelic guides. That's okay. I hope you guys really loved that. I know I did. I almost lost it, but I didn't. I kept it together. Thank you guys so much for being here. Girlie has been patiently waiting for her food, for her dinner. It's still only 6:30 my time, so we're on time. It's all good. Love you guys. Somebody said, Erico Dion said, please release the Ascension 2000 vacuum cleaner blueprint. Great meditation. Loved it much. We are all one. It gave me decent pineal activation. It was excellent. A lot of things have to be put out of misery. I saw aquamarine colors. It was so cool. I will watch the replay. Feed your pup. Thank you again, David. All for one, one for all. Thank you so much. I've known my guides for years. Your consciousness is starting to go really fast here. You guys are all writing at the same time. Please go feed Girly. Wow, look at it. Elohim says amazing. Thank you, David. Beautiful. My heart burst with love. Much love. It was awesome. Thank you for everything. Thank you, David. Have a good day, everyone. Yes, I'm really, really happy to be here with you guys. We still managed to do the usual 3 hours, and now you know what 11.3 is. We'll get to the rest of those posts on Sunday if something huge hasn't happened by then. I probably won't be able to do a show before then, so whatever's going to happen between now and Sunday, just keep on watching the Ezra channel on X. If you ever see somebody showing you a video that says, he's spamming this everywhere, so it's not true. I'm sure the Alliance is very happy with what I'm doing. They signal me every week, and I document those things. So again, I want to thank you guys for being here. It's been a real delight and a real pleasure to be here with you guys today. Whoops, I hit button number 8. Thank you for watching the show, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye for now. I'm David Wilcock.